Hey, whenever you're ready. All set? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the August 5th, 2026 meeting for the McCandless Planning Commission. First order of business is the approval of last month's minutes, which was the meeting of July 7. Before we get to the approvals, any changes, edits, comments regarding the minutes?
I have a request that the minutes be modified to reflect the fact that I was not present for the Wright Hyundai discussion.
Okay, can you make that, Deb? We will do that with that change. Can I have a motion to approve last month's minutes?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor of the approval?
And second.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Let's start with the first order of the old business, which is PLC 26-14, Wright Hyundai dealership, the combined preliminary and final land development, block and lot 1206 N218. Do we have a presentation?
Before we start the presentation, Mr. Chairman, I guess I have a question for the solicitor. I was going to recuse from this, but if I do, is there still a quorum to take any action?
Yes, you still count for the quorum, but
All
we
right.
would just need a majority of the remaining members
Very well.
if they were to take action.
So you are recused. Okay. Okay.
You're excused also.
Any presentation? Please state your name and proceed.
I'm Sean Mooney with Harshman CE Group. Previously, my boss Jamie has been here, but he's on vacation this week, so you've seen this plan a few
Okay.
times already. But yeah, so we're here for the Wright Hyundai dealership project, preliminary and final land development plan located at 10247 Perry Highway in the MU Urban Zoning District. The plan proposes a car dealership consisting of a two-story building with an outdoor vehicle storage and sales lot on tax parcel 1206 and 218. The parcel is about 5.93 acres. We're proposing an updated stormwater management facility as well as increased landscape buffers for the site, which I understand the buffers were one of the concerns that you spoke about previously. So we do have like some constrained buffers on the north and south side of the building. They are still an increase from existing conditions, and we've tried to propose the limited buffers from the ordinance.
They are a marked increase from existing, which
Yes.
is good.
Yeah. So, Jamie, I don't know, do you guys have it? Jamie provided, okay. He provided a little imagery here for the landscape buffers. He used like AI software, so it's mostly just a visual. It's not 100% exact to the plan. But basically, I'll just read off his notes here. The reduced landscape buffers to the north and south are to have densely spaced evergreen shrubs, to establish a fully screened buffer within the reduced width requested. Other plantings are also proposed as per landscaping plan and within areas of full 15-foot buffers. The landscaping in the greenscape between the front row of the parking will dramatically improve curb appeal, breaking the existing continuity of the sidewalk to pavement with low-level mixed evergreen shrubs such as holly, dwarf fiberbar, or equal. And if you've seen the imagery, we have a few things there. Again, it's not 100% exact to the plan, it's just AI imagery, but we'll make sure that the clear sight triangles and stuff aren't a problem at all. So,
And we mention this to almost everybody who comes forward to propose a planting buffer. There are certain plants and things that are less deer appealable.
Right.
I know nothing, I think deer will eat anything, but some of the plants are more deer tolerant, and I would strongly suggest you go for those.
okay.
Otherwise, you're going to have some spindles instead of those nice full bushes.
Were there any in particular that you were more partial to?
No, just for you to look out for it,
Okay.
or you won't have a vegetative
Yeah,
buffer.
yeah,
And we can change
Yeah, they can-
the types that are proposed.
thank you.
That's not a problem. Take a note there. Okay. So at this point, we've pretty much addressed most of the engineer's comments. There are a few outstanding items.
Fairly
You want-
substantial.
Yeah, there was the traffic impact
And the
and the
geotechnical.
geotechnical, which we're still waiting on. We're still waiting on those, so, I mean, at this point in time, it's kind of up to you. Like, we're gonna request like, conditional approval, but that's, if you guys aren't ready for that yet, I assume.
I
you might want-
defer to engineering to see what you think about where we are in this process.
Well, I think, in reviewing the comments that are here, the one is the trip generation. They're stating that there's 164 new trips during the weekend peak hour, which exceeds the threshold of 75 that's established in the ordinance. I guess the question is, Sean, where did that 164 come from? Where's the supporting documentation to go with that 164 trips? Because, maybe I'm speaking out of turn in saying this, but I would think that there would be more trips during the weekdays, during the morning and afternoon peak, when people are bringing vehicles in for service and coming back to get their vehicles in the afternoon. I mean, I think there needs to be definitely some kind of a study to demonstrate how those numbers are being arrived at. I think if you do a study, maybe your 164 might come down.
Okay, yeah. There was another engineer in our office who was working on the HOP.
Yeah.
So I can get the specifics for you regarding the basis for their
You didn't
study.
just use ITE, you did some sort of projection yourself?
Yeah, we did some sort of projections, I would surmise. I can get a more precise answer for you on that.
And it's more than twice the,
It's more than twice, it's 164 versus 75,
Yeah,
it's
that's-
double, you're right.
that's significant. I think some background and
Okay.
supporting information would be helpful.
Okay, yeah, we can provide that. I do have a
The other thing here is the 5-to-1 impervious to area to infiltration area ratio that's required. You're saying you're still waiting on the geotechnical report for the
Yeah.
site. I mean, obviously, there's something there that has to come out of the geotechnical report with regards to infiltration on the site. So, I think I would be concerned that may have to be changes to the design of the stormwater management
Okay.
dependent upon the results of the geotechnical report.
Yeah, those are the two
Those are
major
the
items.
two major things. I mean, there's requests being made here for modifications with some justification, and that's fine. But I think, considering the type of development and the major information that's needed, I think it would be in your best interest to table it. That would be my recommendation.
Do you know when this geotechnical report is due?
Hopefully within like a few weeks here. I don't have.
But you don't really know?
No, I don't
Okay.
have an exact date.
Then I suggest we do table. Any other comments before we?
Yeah, I just have one on the, one of the modifications you're asking for is the slope on the detention facility.
Yes,
You are abutting a high school
okay.
and also a residential area, not suggesting that it needs to be fenced along your pavement line, but it would feel like that slope might want to be fenced from
Fencing.
the high school for sure. I suspect you have some traffic from the high school to Perry Highway now coming through the site.
Okay.
So that was just my concern.
Fencing on, not so much from like our paved area, but.
Right. Paved area, no. Because you're going to be maintaining or monitoring that.
Yeah, that's no problem.
My only comment would be, when does our current extension run out?
You must be looking
I
at it.
received one, I could double check, and I did receive one after the previous meeting.
Okay.
I would just ask that I would redo that process again, just to, for
The-
formality's sake.
Extension.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
One
need
other-
just
one
like
other-
send an email for that?
I can follow up with you
Okay.
guys.
One other question, you were going to get some sort of communication in writing from the engineer regarding access to the site for deliveries.
Yes.
Did that happen?
Yeah.
Yes, I received
You
a
sent it?
comment, addressing that item. Was sent to me, and I believe it was posted in the physical, or the digital document. And I'm happy to
Oh, I missed that.
I can get that for you guys if
Yeah, I
you
missed
didn't have
that.
it
There
yet.
were only two, yeah, okay. So there is something in writing.
Okay, any other comments? No? Then I think the suggestion to table is appropriate. Can I have a motion to table this until next meeting? So moved, second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you. The order, or the matter of Wright Hyundai dealership will be in fact tabled until next month.
Okay,
And
thank you.
we look forward to seeing you then.
Okay, sounds good. And
Thank you.
You said we'd be in touch regarding.
Yep, I'll send an email to both you and Jamie and Joe.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, the second item, or the next item on the agenda is PLC 26-16, Peebles Elementary School Plan, Combined Preliminary and Final Land Development and Lot Consolidation, Block Lot 716K 248 and 716F 34. And we have a presentation.
I'll try
He
not to
said
be as
no
long.
more presentations.
I'll be quick, quicker than last time.
You're,
And I'm not controlling the TV this time, so we'll gain a few more minutes.
Did you see Mark's email?
are you going to go through them individually, or are you going to combine this?
I mean, I can go through them all together if you
Okay.
want.
Okay.
Do you think it's appropriate to go through them together, or do you want to go through them individually?
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I don't know whether there's, engineering comments would be distinct, and therefore it's appropriate to go through them individually.
Yeah, there are some
There's some
comments.
Let's go through them individually.
Yeah, since they're separate
All
agenda
right.
items.
All right.
Again, I'm Craig Bishop with HRG, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the North Allegheny School District. And I don't have Brandon with me this evening. He's actually at another board meeting doing.
He's not on vacation?
No, he's there doing other presentations with the school board for some of these renovation projects. But I do have Ben, he's the architect on the project, and I have my boss, Jenny.
Okay.
He's here from HRG. But, yes, I'll just go ahead and go in here. So I'll just kind of do a quick refresher here. So for Peoples Elementary School, last meeting, we talked about the parcel that they rezoned, that residential lot, and then they were looking to consolidate that into the overall parcel, and then looking to do some site improvements there on the driveway. So Matt, if you go to, we can just skip that. I mean, we can skip the first two slides because everybody's familiar with the site, and we can skip over probably the existing additions. So just to recap here for the layout, so we're looking at revising the entrance to have so it'll be one lane coming in, and then we'll have 2 lanes going out. So it would be a left turn lane only going out, and then a left or right turn lane going out as well, with additional then angled parking there in the front. And then as you kind of go back into the site, we were reconfiguring the parking stalls to try and maximize, again, additional parking that the school needed just for their operational, for whatever, logistics for the school. And then there in orange were the building additions were for the LGI and the administrative building, and then some of the classroom spaces there in the courtyard. Just
And
go
you
on.
shortened the sidewalks?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Does.
Yes, so we did, I know last last time we talked about the sidewalks and whether to extend them to Peoples or not, and we had concerns about the safety of promoting students walking along Peoples where there wasn't sidewalks. So we did pull that into that residential property. They have a sidewalk that comes out with steps that had a mailbox. So we cut that short at that point. So we did not extend it all the way out into Peoples, just to help justify our waiver request for that item.
And you left the sidewalk to support the angled parking.
We did, yes. Yep. Again, just a quick elevation there of what this addition would look like there in the front for the administrative area. And then if you go to the next slide, Matt, that was there. In the back was the LGI area. And then here was our grading plan. And I know last meeting we talked a lot about these trees and is there things that we could do to try and save some of them. So we did assess the site, and we did have it on this PowerPoint. You can kind of see where we have existing 2-to-1 slopes, which was kind of, when we were hitting that with some of our grades before, we were filling more over that area. So we revised our grading in that parking lot to limit our grading on that slope to keep as many trees as we can on that slope. So I think later in the slide, I think I had a number of how many we ended up saving. Again, there's still a significant amount that we need to replace, but we were trying to do what we could to keep as many existing trees on site as we could. That was our infiltration basin. And then we had in the parking lot, that little red box was a little bit of underground as well, which with those two systems, we're meeting the runoff rate requirements and percentages per the township code. Yeah, and this here is our landscape plan showing the mitigation trees and where we're replacing those. So it's kind of hard to read on here, but we ended up, just flip so I can give you the exact number of what we ended up.
Replacing 77.
Yeah, removing 60, replacing 77 of the required 120.
Yeah, so previously there were 148 trees that we needed to replace. So we're saving 14 trees.
Okay.
So it's something.
And I think just to comment on that, for the record, just to summarize, a conversation from last meeting between the Planning Commission. I think, and if I'm speaking out of turn, please correct me, Planning Commission, but I think all of that discussion was that the intent of the ordinance was attempted to be made with trying to keep as many trees on the site. And I believe that it is the place of town council to make any type of policy decision whenever deciding on some type of acceptance of this modification in lieu of placing trees on an external site. So I just kind of wanted to summarize that for the minutes and for the Planning Commission, and that way if there's any comments, that they can be stated now.
We're looking for a plan for the school districts, properties, right?
Yeah, I think the intent of my comments, at least in my staff report, was to present the option to town council. Written in a developer agreement could be whatever would be decided upon for that tree replacement. I do think that there's an opportunity for a partnership between the town and the school the requirement for the trees is for multiple reasons, stormwater, vegetation, green space, buffering. And I think that the intent of what the development is on all of these sites, especially, this one in particular that we're speaking of, and all of the proposed tree plantings, is having some type of plan between the town and the school that would be agreed upon prior to a final approval.
And the only thing I would add to that, we were discussing it before the meeting, is that the town's environmental advisory council be involved in developing that plan, because they're very, very involved in trying to get vegetation in the town and maintaining vegetation in the town. So they can be a help.
Okay, and I know in our waiver request for that item. We did put in,
Yeah.
the district,
I read that. Yep.
they want to do right with the community here, so
You offered it up.
but yes, that they'll, whether that's payment in lieu of or funding some other project or something the township has that requires trees, they're willing to partake to help meet this requirement.
That makes sense.
So,
And then one more item there, Matt,
Oh, sorry.
because it kind of came up at the last meeting about the screening on that parking to the right. Trying to indicate where there to the left, to that existing parcel there in the back where it kind of makes that little Z. There was a comment about adding additional buffering, and so we did add more trees up along the one end just to make sure that we were providing the appropriate buffer in there for that adjacent property owner.
what kind of lighting is being proposed in that area for the parking, the angle parking again? Is it low?
I mean, we'll have regular parking lot lighting. I think it's, what, 20
20
foot?
feet high?
Yeah. But we're providing the appropriate shielding and everything to make sure we're not
Okay.
bleeding foot candles off of the property. Again, this was just showing the monument sign that they were planning. And we kind of talked about the circulation. I could go into that again, but if there's no questions, we can move on. Again, that was it. Then just a quick update. We did get our admin completeness from the Conservation District for our MPDS permit, so that is now in technical review, and we're still coordinating with PennDOT on getting that driveway permitted.
Sorry.
That's all right. And then just to recap, there were those waivers that we're requesting. So the waiver for the sidewalk, and then the modification regarding the tree replacement. And then we did have that slope waiver that we were asking for before, but we revised the grading to where we don't need that now, and we saved trees. So it's a win-win.
Okay, thank you. What comments from engineering?
I mean, the comments in our letter of July 30th are all pretty much, I would say, administrative items that that could be addressed. There's, the one thing I will say is there's that shared driveway with the property owner that's adjacent, so that, we're asking that prior to commencement of construction, provide an agreement executed by all affected property owners, regarding maintenance, ingress, egress, and regress. I think that's fair, and I
Yes,
think that's probably something that could be included in the developer's agreement as language, and be a condition of it. But everything else here, I think, is relatively administrative housekeeping that can be done. I wouldn't have any objections to approving the plan.
And to your comment about the easement with the adjacent property owners, the district has already met with them and had already I think it was maybe a week and a half ago, just to start letting them know what's going on, and they had some requests, and so there is dialogue back and forth, and the school district is working with them to make sure they're due right to those neighbors.
Same, one application.
Oh,
Consolidation and land development.
okay, sorry.
So I think we're probably ripe for an approval, motion for approval with specific condition that the items we have mentioned do in fact get completed, and to the,
Do you need to act
You'll
on
want-
the modification request?
Yeah, you'll
first?
want to address the modification request.
For the
Each-
sidewalks?
The sidewalks, and then the trees, and then the plan as a whole.
Yeah.
you want to take a motion for that?
Yeah, a motion for each, the sidewalks, trees, and then the plan as a whole.
Okay. All right, then we will need several motions. The first being a modification for the sidewalks that were discussed here. Can I have such a motion?
So moved.
So move second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And just- Thank you, Mark. Just for the, record, that's section 1104.230A1.
Okay. I would have known that.
I'm opposed on that.
You're opposed to the sidewalk modification?
Correct.
Okay, so we're not unanimous, we have one opposition. Second one was the correct me,
The trees.
the trees,
Doing some,
Development of
doing
the plan.
something in lieu of putting back all the required number of trees.
They actually had, their letter offered some good
Yeah,
language for that. I don't, do you have the application letter? Thank you.
That's the right one. Nope, that's the exact. But I do have it.
Thank you. Requesting the waiver for replacing the vegetation on site, requesting that, or we recommend that the replacement trees in lieu of preservation qualified trees where the applicant has proven to the satisfaction of the town council that vegetation removal is minimized. A written document or plan should be developed, performed by a registered landscape architect or qualified professional, showing no desirable layouts or possible locations on the site, and that we should develop with the town a plan for replacement preservation tree planting on, I guess the easiest thing, the properties to be approved by the town.
Yep.
You're gonna look
Yes.
for the school, but other town properties.
Okay, that was a mouthful. All in favor? Well, first let's start with the motion to approve that.
No, I made the motion.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And just to clarify, that is specifically section 1104.320A4. Sorry. That's all right.
And the third?
no, just the plan as a whole.
Yep, fine, go.
Okay. Can we have a motion to approve this plan, given the conditions that we just stated? Approving the plan, motion to recommend the town council approve PLC 26-16, Peebles Elementary School Plan, combined preliminary and final land development and lot consolidation, lot and lock 716K 248 and 716F 34. A motion?
So moved.
So moved, second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We'll move on.
All right, thank you.
The next item is PLC 26-17, Hozak Elementary School Plan, combined preliminary and final land development and lot consolidation, block and lot 827M 185 and 827D 176.
So I'll just kind of, I guess, do a quick overview again of this one. So the school district, they have two properties at Hozak. So they're looking to consolidate those two properties into one. So there on that PowerPoint is showing the darker one was the one where the school is not currently on, but the one that they're really looking to consolidate that all into one parcel. Just skip over that one. This is just the existing conditions. There is a stream and wetland on the property, just as a reminder. The layout on this really there wasn't really any layout changes on this site. So just to kind of recap, we were adding additional parking there in the PowerPoint presentation in the upper left. Just again, for logistics and operational standpoints for the school, they were looking to try to maximize parking. And then we had the building additions there in the orange on the lower part of that plan. Move on to the next one. Again, this was the elevations that we shared to last presentation, just showing what these building additions would look like.
Okay.
Next slide, Matt. So this here was our stormwater grading and drainage plan. There in red was just showing where our stormwater detention facility was located on the site. And we did look to modify this and shrink the footprint to try and save more trees as well in this area. So I don't flip to the count, but I don't think it was quite as many as Peoples. Well, I guess it was 20, ended up being 14 trees that we ended up saving by pulling that in. So again, we were asking again for that modification, similar to what we did on Peoples with the tree modification. And then the other waiver request that we had on this project was the slopes, which we revised that to meet that requirement of the code. So that this one would only have the tree modification request.
Okay. Any engineering comments?
I have one question here, Craig, on the waivers.
And the sidewalks,
Or the
yeah,
sidewalk
sidewalks,
one
yeah.
also.
Yeah, there was, I was just looking at it, thank you, Joe. There was a sidewalk waiver request on this one as well, but it was a small amount, just because of the way that property is, it was pretty narrow there in the front. So it was similar to our request at Peoples. There's no sidewalk on Peoples Road, and we don't want to promote people walking, children walking to the school. So it was a safety concern for the district is the reasoning behind that waiver request. We had provided the justification letter.
So I apologize, to your question, engineering, on the consolidation plan, we raised the question about providing dimensioning to clarify the extent and location of the provided easement that would benefit both property owners, and that the adjacent owner should be a signature on the plan for recording. Okay, that's one
Yep.
thing. The remainder of the items, I mean, they're all housekeeping items that can be taken care of internally, and would be okay to do a conditional approval, I believe.
Then we will proceed along those lines. We'll start with the motion for the tree modification. So moved?
Yeah,
So moved,
the
second?
prior motion moved.
So, yeah. Yeah, same as the last. Second?
I'll second.
All second. In favor? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? I keep forgetting you're there, Mark.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, and the second item is the waiver on the sidewalk, as was just described. We have a motion for the waiver for the sidewalk. So moved, second?
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
We have one opposition. So we will, I'll need now a motion to recommend the town council approve the PLC 26-17 Hosek Elementary School Plan, combined preliminary and final land development and lot consolidation, block and lot 827M 185 and 827D 176,
With the engineering, housekeeping.
with all of the engineering and housekeeping things to be concluded as stated. All in favor?
So moved.
Move. Opposed? I didn't hear you, Mark.
Aye, sorry.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The last of the school items.
There's two.
PLC 26-18 Ingomar Elementary School Plan, combined preliminary and final land development, block and lot 943M 309.
All right, so I'll do the same thing here on this one. Hopefully this one's a little bit briefer, but this is for Ingomar Elementary School. There is no lot consolidation plan on this one. So you can just skip to that. Yeah, so here's this just as a refresher, this was the layout that we shared last meeting, just showing the additional parking there on the upper right, and then reconfiguring the playground where that parking lot will be going, and then renovating the baseball field, and then also with the additions for the LGI and the administrative office there in the front. Again, this was the elevations, the same as that were shared at the last meeting of what these additions would look like. This here was our drainage and grading plan. The red there being the underground detention system that would be collecting majority of the improvement area and providing the rate reduction for the release rates to meet McCandless's ordinances. And then this here was our proposed landscape plan, and the one thing that changed from last time is we did have trees planted on the slope behind, in between the school and the ball field, but the district, as we talked about at the last meeting, actually had concerns about the placement of those trees and having an obstruction for the view from the playground. So they want us to remove those, but given the tightness of how tight this site is similar to the other sites, we weren't able to fit those back on there. So unfortunately, we weren't asking for a tree replacement modification previously, but we are now.
Do you know how many trees are involved?
There was 11 trees that we weren't able to mitigate on site for that one. And then there was,
The driveway.
yeah, we did have that modification request on the driveway.
May I ask counsel for interpretation? Our definition for driveway says it includes both ingress and egress. They have one ingress, one egress, and a driveway. So is it 2 driveways or 3?
It's actually a question for Matt, as your zoning officer.
So the way that the verbiage reads, it does in quotes say both ingress and egress. I have a hard time as a professional saying that's where someone drives into a site wouldn't be a driveway. Personally, I think that the way that the code reads is it does read both ingress and egress. It says the exact words. So the interpretation would be that technically that wouldn't require that modification the way it's defined.
Okay.
That was something that was brought up to my attention prior to this meeting, not included in my report.
Okay.
So I think that's just, that might, you might not need that request because of the way that that definition's written, so.
I mean, if that's the stance of the town, then I would retract that, and I guess that waiver request for the driveway. Thank you for pointing that out. I didn't even think to look in the definition of the driveway.
I also did not. I'll say that on the record. So,
So there is no driveway waiver required?
I guess not, no.
yeah.
Based on that
Based on the
definition.
definition of driveways within the town code, the way it reads, you would not require that stated.
Do we have another defined term to describe what that cartway might be?
There are 2 driveways, ingress and egress. So they're split, as happens on some sites. Like the funeral home I went to before I came here, there was an ingress and an egress.
Okay, so the way it would read would be that essentially, like, you could think of it as like if someone had a governor's driveway that was cited to be one way in and one way out, that would be considered a driveway, both connection points in the code, both connection points, ingress and egress would be one drive connection, the way it reads.
Just by the definition now, whether that's right or not.
Is that something that, in a SALDO update in the future that I'm going to take a look at and consider for adjusting? Absolutely. But, the way that the code reads, that's what the interpretation is. I also think that, in my opinion, that, I think in this site particularly, it is a moot point, personally. That's just my opinion. But that's what my interpretation would be based on the definition of what our code is.
Okay.
Does engineering
I don't
have
like it,
any?
But yeah,
I don't
Because I would look at the one-way in and the one-way out as a curb cut versus a driveway.
Okay.
Okay.
That's something to consider.
In future, saldo perhaps definitions and things.
So the tree is the,
I guess that would be the only.
Looks like the tree modification is the only thing.
Modification.
Anything else from engineering?
Just some housekeeping things here regarding the ENS controls and the stormwater management, but nothing that would hold up the approval of the plan.
Okay.
Craig can get to us.
Okay, we'll go through the same process, and can I have a motion to approve the tree modification using the language that we have used in the past?
So moved.
So moved, second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed?
Thank you.
You are finished.
No,
I do have one more later.
Later,
but we didn't approve
The plan is.
the plan itself.
Oh,
See, just one item at a time.
There's a lot going on.
Motion to,
so excited.
now we need the motion to recommend town council approve the PLC 26-18 Inglemore Elementary School Plan, combined preliminary and final land development, block and lot 943M 309. Can I have such a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
I have a second approved. All say aye.
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 Opposed? No opposed. Now you made
it
it.
was, I don't know, 20 minutes or so? So
Not bad. Better than last time.
You just didn't want to have to order pizza.
Okay, we are finished with old business, and we now have new business. The first order of business, PLC 2621 Bramble Lane Plan. And as Matt is walking in there, in full disclosure, I happen to live on this street, so I know Matt personally, and I know the people involved, and I know this situation pretty well. So, having heard that, the issue before us is PLC 26-21 Bramble Lane Plan, lot line revision, block and lot 613D 301 and 613D 291. It's all yours, Matt.
Good evening.
State your name and-
Chris Pelosi, my neighbor, is literally on his way. He planned to be here earlier, but he had 2 consults, ophthalmology consults that pass event at the last minute, but he may be walking through the door as we speak. We have lived next to each other for over 30 years, and about 10 years ago, Chris put in a new pool in his backyard, and when he had the surveying done, it was found that we had been using a lot line at the back of the lot that wasn't true. And in fact, part of what he had as his land, his land actually leached over into ours, and part of his storage shed was on our land. So we had the,
Speaking of the devil, this is the
there
other,
it is now. Come on up, come on up. So
There's a
at
fence
that
also?
point, excuse
There's a
me?
fence also that's on the other property?
Yes, the fence, yeah. And so Chris had this surveying done, and it sort of lay around for years, and then we decided we ought to do something with it. And at that point, we talked with Matt, and he said, oh, we have new forms now, get the new forms done. Well, we went back to the fellow who had done the surveying, and unfortunately, he was dead. So we had to start from scratch, and we did that with Scheffler and Company, and we've since had both the properties resurveyed and submitted the initial findings to you. You came back with edits that you wanted done. Our Scheffler has done those and resubmitted them. And then I know that it's also gone to the county, and we just got a note from them the other day that they want to make sure that all 4 of our signatures are on it. So where we are now is we are ready to move forward. We're ready to get final approval, and then get your advice on who needs to do what to whom at what point.
And all the required setbacks and lot widths and all that are still.
yeah, still Matt.
My only comment is, it's really hard to tell what lot lines go into what lot line on the drawing. So if there can be a way that that's highlighted in the future,
It was more obvious in the big version.
yeah,
I mean, basically, it starts
I
at the same
see
lot
it.
line, okay.
but it took me a while.
Yeah, so it's like 12 or 14 feet at the
Yeah.
end, so it's a very, very
Yeah, it's kind of
thin.
an angle.
It's a very
it's a
thin,
sliver.
it follows the whole thing, it's just basically a very, very thin
Yeah.
pie-shaped way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's actually bringing the use on the property into compliance, which is
Yes.
which is great.
A good idea.
Yeah, because there is a fence along that line.
Yeah.
so.
Okay, it's a rather simple issue. We've done it before. Any comments from engineering?
There's just a couple housekeeping things here that need to be addressed with regards to the front yard setback. Needs to be shown to be revised to be 30 feet on the plan, and this changing the site location map. But other than that, there's no reason why they can't get conditional approval subject to these items of the July 30th. Yeah, letter being addressed, so I'm tongue-tied.
Okay. So you received the letter with the
We have,
adjustments?
no, we haven't. When did Scheffler
Yes,
issue it?
that was sent to you, July 23rd.
Okay.
Your letter, well, the basics of your letter with his notes and all of those changes have been made.
Okay, so we issued a letter dated July 30th that still had some.
Yeah, I think,
outstanding
just to clarify, I think that there might have been some type of confusion. I know that we had an email chain back and forth. I'm not sure, the letter that was issued for this property was on the 30th, and there's very minor comments on it. I don't think that they were addressed on this plan. So, I mean, it's very typical whenever a lot line revision every lot line revision I've ever looked at has had some type of minor comment. It's very typical in the process that applicant receives a letter and there might be a comment or two, and it's just prior to the process after a final approval would be recording is that those edits would be corrected on the final plan.
We received the draft from I guess, from your office or from your office. And and those responses were made.
Sure.
In red. And they changed the forms.
And we can confirm that, that response letter prior to the plan being presented at town council for final approval.
Okay.
And
So the setback in the front, that's changed? Is that what we're thinking?
It's supposed to, it should be revised to be 30 feet.
It used to be more than that though, right?
It used to be 35.
Right, I remember when I bought the house, it was
Yeah.
like almost 40 feet or something.
Right.
So that was just a change that
Is it
happened.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, so I
But
mean,
just to show,
they're minor,
yeah,
they're housekeeping.
we're not,
Not that's gonna hold up your approval.
cool, okay.
So that change needs to be made on the master document?
correct.
Correct.
Okay.
And I'm happy to, have a discussion after this meeting or sometime this week regarding the process moving forward. That way you know exactly what is
Okay.
next.
I didn't see a 29th. Would that have been the email on the 29th? Would that have been?
That was-
Madeline?
Yeah,
I think what it might have happened is that
20,
the draft letter might have gotten released.
Okay.
And the finalized letter, maybe, I'm not 100% certain to speak why, but all the comments are minor and typical in any.
I think we responded to the draft and then got the final one with the signature, and it was all the same
Okay.
adjustments.
Yeah, and I'll make sure that, that the engineer gets those comments and that they look at it prior to any final.
Okay.
All right, fair enough.
So, yeah, we'd like to know, what anything next steps for us.
The next step, well, we will go through our motion process, you'll hear that tonight, but then you also go before the council.
Right.
And that is on the
24th.
Correct.
24th.
And then what would happen after, if they give you a final approval, what would happen is you would get the signatures of the completed, edited document that suffices all the comments that you received from Gateway's letter. You would sign that on your end, you'd provide that to my office. I would have all the town signatures and engineering signatures completed. I would release that to you, and then you can take that to the county for final recording, and then just give me a copy once it's
And
completed.
when do we do the notarized signatures?
After the.
After the council.
24th.
After the council.
So, so in terms of the county, we contact them separately, is there a process that we need to know?
Yep, I have a document I'll provide you.
Okay, I don't take up your time.
No, you're totally fine.
Okay.
And we will ask Scheffler to redo the large documents?
Yep, they'll provide you with a final copy that they'll stamp, and then you can provide that to my office. My engineer will review it to make
Okay.
sure that everything is correct. We sign it, we release it to you, and then you can take it to the county with recording, and I'll have documentation to help you with that process.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
All right, so before you go, can I have a motion that the town council approve the PLC 26-21 Bramble Lane Plan, lot line revision, block and lot 613D301 and 613D291? Can I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Second?
I'll second.
Second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition. Successful.
Good, thank you.
A few more steps, but then you should be there.
Sounds good.
Next item is PLC 26-22 NASD North Allegheny Senior High School preliminary and final land development block and lot 1205H 138. We're at it again.
I'm back again.
Now we're on a new issue.
Yep, a new issue. So as you see on your screen there, I know everybody's probably familiar where the North Allegheny Senior High School is, but this is just to kind of give you a little context of what their property boundary looks like. So there, in blue was their boundary. This here is the existing additions plan, and that area dashed in blue is the general location of where they're looking to put a building addition onto the existing senior high school. Go to the next slide there, Matt. So this slide here is showing our site plan for the site. So I'll start right there where that the orange block is. That is the building addition, which will contain an auditorium, so another swimming pool for the high school to meet their program needs. And then as part of that, they're also adding on additional athletic office and improving that space as well. So that is all, as you can see in that plan, is projecting out into the existing parking lot. So we're trying to not lose parking spaces on this site. So in trying to avoid losing those spaces, the district is also then looking there in the upper right of adding additional spaces. So there's an additional 68 spaces we'll be adding as part of this plan to mitigate the 68 spaces that they'll be losing for this addition.
It's a one-for-one trade-off?
Yes.
Except more impervious surface, right?
More impervious surface. So we'll have later on my slides more stormwater and whatnot.
Can I just ask a
yes.
quick question on the pool? The presentation that I saw at the school board meeting, there was a debate as to whether and how, if the pool would be connected to the other pool, where the firewall would be, if you would have two pools, so one could be a warm-up pool and the other one would be a pool for competitions. Which of those decisions was made, do you know?
I actually can speak on that because I was part of that conversation. The school district is in the process of contacting the third party that the town was utilizing in the interim for our building to get clarification on the building code requirements so that they can adequately make that decision. So I think that decision isn't made yet.
Okay.
I think it's up to the interpretation of the the building inspector, commercial building inspector, and plans reviewer to say this is what needs to be done, and then they can proceed accordingly.
Because there's a real advantage to having the two pools available with a island in between from a competition standpoint and being able to lease them for other events.
Yeah, I'm not know where they're at with
That's fine,
what
just
they're
curious.
yeah. But just as circulation through the site, we were trying to kind of keep the same circulation that they currently use as for their operation. So I know in that where the students, maybe Matt, if you go back one slide. So on this existing plan, you can see inside the blue dashed area, the edge of the building near that parking lot. So currently the students, there's a door there that the student drivers funnel in through that door, and that drive aisle there in front of the building is one way. It's a 20-foot wide drive aisle. And so Matt, if you flip back to the next slide. So in our layout, we were trying to, if you zoom in there a little bit, to mimic the same maneuvers here through the sites. We're continuing to keep that as a one-way directional traffic through by the new building addition for the drop-off area, and then also the students would then be funneling in through that door as well and going into the building. So you can see we were thinking about how we're impacting some of the sidewalks there with some of the other student parking that's on the facility and making sure we're providing safe crossings for them across these drive aisles. And then we just, to try and making sure we weren't losing spaces, we utilized that other little area to add additional spaces and bring some of the ADA that was not connected to the building, that was kind of floating in that existing parking space to bring them over closer to the building and make it more ADA compliant.
I think you said in your paperwork that your opinion, the school district's opinion, is that the parking is sufficient even for events?
Yeah, so it all depends on how you're looking at it, but we're basically looking at, like, football was basically their high generator. The auditorium and these events and when these things would be happening is not going to be overlapping with, say, like football or some of their high generator events. So by adding the addition, we wouldn't be changing or, say, modifying their high generator event.
I don't know that we have a parking standard for schools, do we? How many
So the code, I'll let Matt. You can.
Honestly, off the top of my head, I'm not certain.
So we did look and it's based on
classrooms?
it's not classrooms, it's based on the need of the facility.
Oh, aren't we sweet?
Yeah.
Okay. Usually it's by classrooms and staff and something like that. but-
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what we're used to seeing, but it wasn't.
I don't know the area. Is there overflow parking?
In that part that they're paving up there. That's where the.
Where they're
overflow
paving?
is. Yeah,
Yeah,
But that's
so
not
there
giving
is-
them additional space, that's only a one-for-one trade-off.
yeah, but the overflow, when I've been to football games, is where they're paving, right there. It's grass there right now.
Yeah, there's grass, and we will still keep some of that grass out front, and then there's another, how to explain where it's at, but it's, I guess kind of across the street from that proposed parking, there's another grass area that I know I've been through the facility during a football night, and there's been cars parked in that area as well as overflow.
Do you not anticipate a parking, I'll ask whoever's out there, do you not anticipate parking overflow problems?
So he's saying there's
You don't think there are any?
So unfortunately, Brandon, the facilities
Okay.
director, he's not here, but
Okay, so you're the only one who can answer that?
yeah, so I mean, based on,
But it sounds like there have been overflow problems in the past.
We can
And
assess if they're, sorry, hi, Jenny Loney, from
stand up and come up front, please.
I just,
Yeah, you're fine.
Jenny Loney from HRG. As you were talking, I'm thinking, because if they're assuming overflow within that lawn area now, and we're paving it to make an account, I think we need to verify with them in the football stadium to exhibit how many or where, and or if they're shuttling potentially to solve that problem. It may not be now, but I know we've talked at other facilities that they may need to shuttle. So I don't have an exact answer. Our goal was to not lose, but we hadn't talked about losing overflow. So we're matching the.
But, I mean, it seems like the perfect time to do that, so I would ask and try to fix it all at one time.
Yeah.
And I could just even just state just from like a logic standpoint that I'm sure, I know that's adding impervious, but like having a striped parking area that's dedicated for parking is gonna be safer for kids parking in grass and having like that, even that option on the site. That's gonna, just my 2 cents.
Yeah, a lot of times in school design, we'll look at two-way roads becoming one-way and then parallel parking can happen. But there's also that safety need in thinking about fire truck access. So we can ask to get more information since they're not here representing their
Yeah.
overflow and provide an
Okay.
exhibit.
That would be great, thank you.
which would be more impervious surface, which would change the stormwater, right?
correct.
Or it's more lawn, so.
Yeah, no.
And then, I mean, personally, I was there one time last year and they were parking in the grass in the front of the, and I thought they were using it for handicap parking. So I don't know, maybe there needs to be maybe like some grass pavers or something, Craig, to help. If you could use the grass pavers, you don't have the impervious area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like
Uh,
parking might be an issue.
Yeah.
Okay. If you check into that, that would be great, thank you.
Yep, well,
Okay, we interrupted you, I'm sorry, you
That's
can
okay.
continue on.
it's a good conversation. Trying to think of what else. There to the back, you can kind of see a gravel area back there with some green hatching. So with this building for the pool as it's being constructed, like they have excavated a lot of dirt. So that was where we were looking to place the excavated dirt to keep the costs down for the project and waste it on site. Where that area is shown on our plan, they have an existing gravel storage area currently where they have like trailers, or they have like movable stands or things that they use for their operational purposes. So since we would be removing that with this fill, then we would be putting gravel back over there so they give them their storage area back.
And that would be excavations from the site.
Correct, yes, for the swimming pool, because
And have the soils been tested?
yes, we've had a geotechnical report
No, I meant from a quality standpoint, so.
for.
Contamination.
I don't know if they did, we'll look at it, I'm not 100% sure. I know that they
If you're
did
gonna be
the,
stockpiling and storing.
yeah. I know that, yeah, they did the borings and it was, the geotech said that we could.
They didn't hit any.
They didn't hit anything,
or anything?
we could place that on site, but I'll double check on that.
Okay, thank you.
Is that a permanent storage area for the excavated materials, or are they going back to somewhere else?
No, it would be permanent.
How high would it be?
If you want to go, actually, this is a good segue, you can just, if you want to go 2 more slides. So you can kind of see here, so I know there's a fill slope in the back. So you would still have part of that fill slope before you would get to the level pad area, but I think it's roughly like 25 feet of elevation change, and there's probably like 50 currently back there. So it would kind of be in the middle of where that fill slope is currently, is where that would kind of level out.
So I think the question is, the gray area will be flat?
Correct.
Okay,
Or
so it isn't a stop
roughly
sign.
flat. It wouldn't be a mound.
Yeah.
You're just
Yeah,
moving it
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
The question was, is it a,
No, I'm sorry. No, it wouldn't be a mound.
The utilization of the materials on site to then grade and then place gravel in
Correct.
place of where there was existing gravel.
Yes.
Okay.
So now I guess, Matt, if you want to go back forward to,
Forward to or back?
or back to, I'm sorry. So this here are the elevations of the building addition. Again, this may fluctuate and change, and when we're actively going through this design review with the school district, but currently this is what the rendering from the elevation is for this building addition. So the architect is really trying, as they were doing on the elementary school, is really trying to play off the existing features of the building and to make it look like it was always part of it. And then if you go to the next slide, was just the new entrance and what that may look like. And then back to this slide here with showing our grading and drainage. So we kind of talked about the grading a little bit there in the back and where some of this excavated material would go. There outside of the orange box there for the addition, we'll be regrading part of that parking lot and raising it up, because just the way the grades work, so we'll actually be replacing part of the existing parking lot and replacing it then with asphalt. And then in that area is where we were looking to put underground detention systems for our stormwater management to meet the release rates, to meet the stormwater requirements of the town. And then the upper parking lot, if you pan up a little bit.
The new one?
Yeah, the new one. So we were similar to, like, since this, sorry, Matt.
he's saying, okay,
You said oh, he's talking to me, my bad.
Similar to the elementary school, since this is a renovation project, it becomes a struggle with trying to capture the water to get it to our stormwater detention system. So we were doing sort of like a split. So we're taking some of the existing impervious, taking it to our underground system to offset some of the new impervious that's going then out front where that parking lot is. So that water actually would be bypassed and wouldn't go into our new underground detention facilities, but it would then go into the existing basin that it's just kind of clipped off there on the lower left. there's an existing basin down over the hill, so it wouldn't be uncontrolled, it would be going into that existing basin and controlled. I think that was it for that one, so if that, you want to go to the next one. So this is the landscape plan for the site, so we are meeting all the code requirements as far as landscape buffers, and we were meeting the replacement requirement on this one for what we were removing. So unlike the other ones, we will not be asking for a modification request regarding the tree replacement. And if you go to the last slide, just a quick update on permitting. So we have submitted the MPDS permit. We're waiting on our technical admin completeness comments. Should be getting those soon. And then the sewage approval. So we have been working with MTSA. They did say we don't need to do a sewage planning module. However, they do want to do a monitoring of the flow to figure out what increase there is with an auditorium to making sure that the school district is paying the appropriate tapping fees for increased flow. So I guess with that, I know there's some minor comments that Gateway had. There was, the fill, we were on that fill area in the back, we were showing it as a 2-to-1 to try and maximize the area. So we would currently be asking for a waiver on the slopes, and we'll provide a slope analysis on that with a geotech assessment. And then I know there was a comment in there about the sewer and the easements and things. So we are working with McCandless Township Sewer Authority, and they are televising those lines just because of some of the fill and the grading impacts that we currently have on this site, just to make sure there isn't any issues. So we are working with them, and we'll continue to work with them to making sure we're doing right with this plan. So I was going to ask for conditional approval. I know that maybe staff and Joe might have a different opinion, but I felt like the comments were minor enough that we could continue on. And that's right, you always ask.
What's engineering got to say?
Well, we have a 5-page comment letter here that has various things that are related to the different subject areas. There's land development comments related to the ADA parking, some clarifications on things, identifies slopes greater than 25%, so it shows some utility crossings, and other things. Grading, we had some comments regarding the grading. They'd like to see some cross sections for the proposed fill. There's stormwater management comments that need to be addressed, and then some general comments. So, I think it might be in the best interest to probably table it and get these items addressed.
I would agree with that. Anytime, it's the first presentation and there's 5 pages of comments. I understand.
Not 3.
I do have just a clarification question. The gravel section,
Yes.
that wouldn't be used for any type of like student access, being that it's not striped, it would solely be for parking, or sorry, storage?
We've had this discussion, and I know we met with you early on about this. So I think that would likely have a gate on it. So it, just so
Would you have
students
any
couldn't.
signage?
We could put
there?
signage on it as well, but yeah, they didn't, since we weren't paving that, we weren't adding lighting, we don't want students parking down in that area, so the district would probably put a gate on that
I think a
to
gate would
restrict
be
access.
Sufficient.
And then, yes, it was to replace what they were losing, so currently they have like a storage area, and so they would be getting
There
that
will
back.
be materials, equipment.
Equipment storage,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's not junk, it's
Right,
equipment.
right.
Yeah, but with lighting, lack of lighting, lack of parking, it's not considered a
Yeah.
parking area, so
Yeah.
just confirming that was the
It's a
intent.
storage area.
Before we move to table, could you remind me of the timing of this project and the 3 elementaries?
Yeah, so I don't know, Ben, you could chime in if I'm saying the wrong dates here, but I believe, unless something has changed, they're going out to bid the elementary schools in October.
Late October.
And then receiving bids, and then I believe November would be going to the school board for approval, and then looking to start in the beginning of 2027 for the elementary school projects. I believe Nash is a month behind, two months behind that.
So the elementaries will be construction during school year.
The bulk of the work will happen, site work and addition work will begin during the school year. The bulk of that work, the heavy work, the interior stuff will happen during that summer. Then there'll be a pause during the next school year, and then the summer of '28 will have another push. There's some interior renovations that are going on, like finish updates and
And the high school is, the bulk of the work is summer of 27 or 28?
I'd say by 27.
27 is when they're gonna start, but the work there is tied into swim season more so. So the start of construction is tied in to let swim season happen and then start.
They'll have to go through the whippeals and all that
Okay.
before they can,
Yeah. And that one has a longer duration. I can't remember the end date.
which is like
for that.
May, that they're done.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from anybody on the commission? Hearing none, so how about then if,
Okay, this is Mark.
yes, Mark.
Yeah, one, I just, with using the fill and keeping it on site, fully understand the motivation and the reasons for that. But when it does come back, I'd be keen to hear more, really the mitigation of building that onto the site. Again, with compaction and other elements of the fill you're going to be using with, and particularly with that 2-to-1 slope, which gives a lot of velocity of flow off of that. So I'd hope to hear more details on that portion of the plan. Over.
Okay, yeah, we'll make sure when we come back, we'll try to address some of your concerns with that.
Okay,
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
okay. All right, then, let's go ahead and, can I get a motion to recommend the town council table the PLC 2622 NASD North Allegheny Senior High School preliminary and final land development block and lot 1205 H138. A motion to table.
So moved.
So moved, second? Second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. I thought maybe you guys might give me conditional approval so you have to see me again in another month. but-
Can't get enough of you.
Thank you, Craig.
All right, the next item is the zoning ordinance amendment review.
All right, that is me. Give me 1 second to pull up my screen. Thank you.
State your name and
I will,
where you work.
I'm Matthew Innes, a resident of Bethel Park. Thank you.
Thank you, we'll see you next time.
While you're pulling that up, Matt, I did pull the parking requirements. So the table does say vaguely parking demand analysis and no further states what that analysis should be. We would be limited because this is an expansion or an enlargement to just the demand for the new part of that expansion. But they were saying that the parking is gonna be exactly the same, so you probably could push that they need to add additional spaces for additional building space. It's going to be used for events when,
And the point of the pool is to provide a 25-meter and a 25-yard pool so they can do scholastic events and also do other events.
okay.
So they are, I'm going to assume, they're making a $60 million investment in a pool.
Yeah.
They're going to be looking at other, and if nothing else, just, well, not that many for practicing, but
I went to school there, and I know that there's a parking issue. I mean, like, that was years ago. I can only
It seems
imagine
now
it's
it's
gonna
time
get
to
worse.
address it.
Yeah.
that's, I thought it was a very interesting point they made in their letter. Oh, we're sure we have enough parking
So I think
for
they're
operational
definitely justified in asking for more, but I do think that we have to err on the side of caution a little bit because of the vague language, that they definitely do get it interpreted to what benefits them, but I do think there's still an interpretation that you can absolutely require more parking.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. All right, now it's my turn. I will go over some of these draft edits to the zoning cleanup. We've talked over the past almost a year now about zoning updates. I've given a few presentations, one to this commission we've discussed, one to town council. I've spoken to 1,000 residents maybe about this item, about zoning. I've seen a couple hundred now permits come in. What this document is the beginning draft, with intention to have it, in next month, have comments addressed from this draft, have an ordinance that we can then discuss and potentially vote on next month. This is a draft cleanup, just to specify, we aren't rewriting the zoning code entirely. As with any update to anything, it's a living document, you're gonna review it in the future, so I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna just explain some of the items here. Happy to pause at any point, just if you don't mind, just let me get through the entirety of whatever chapter that is. I have a section blocked out for each chapter, so I'll just start. I'm gonna go through this whole document just so that we're all on the same page. This is an important document. It does impact the zoning, so it does impact where and what people can do. A majority of this is either a removal of certain restrictive aspects of the code, and some of it is rewriting for clarification and adjustment. So just to go through, first adjustment of 1301-220 recommendation is to adjust the language for interior renovations. This is just to match the way that it's written within the building code, to specify, making sure that people are aware that an interior renovation, I get calls a lot. People are like, I read that interior renovations don't require a permit. So I wanted to make sure that it specifically stated increased floor area height of the exterior, because then that leads them to say, okay, well, there's certain criteria where they'd have to get a building permit. And the way that the town is set up is it has a permit application that is both a building and zoning permit. It's one permit application, and it becomes a building permit applicable whenever the building code is referenced. So if someone builds a retaining wall over 4 feet, they must get a permit, and that permit has a building aspect and a zoning aspect. If it was just a retaining wall that was below 4 feet, they would just require a zoning permit. That's why this is specified, as well as, for adding the section of zoning repair for in-kind. We get a lot of calls where, someone has a fence that they are replacing, like a section of it because it rotted, it's in the sun, tree fell over on it. So this is just allowing for people that already have permitted structures, like a retaining wall, a driveway, an existing patio, to be able to fix that without having to go through the process of getting another permit. This is how the town has handled this historically. And then whenever the update was written, I just don't think it was clear. So that was the intent of that. And then the third item on this section is an expansion of, and just an adjustment of the certificate of use versus the certificate of occupancy. It's really just a zoning item. There's a lot of municipalities that, typically municipalities issue occupancy permits if anyone has a building permit. There are some municipalities that utilize two mechanisms, occupancy and use. The town hasn't utilized a certificate of use. I think I looked back, there's been one or two that have been issued. It's really just the verbiage. So we're just changing the verbiage to match whenever someone gets a certificate of occupancy, whether it's occupying a building to actually have the physical ability to occupy it or occupying it as use. We're just clarifying the verbiage to be the same so it doesn't force the municipality to use more resources to double up everything, because then you'd have to create an occupancy and a certificate of use for every item. It just clarifies that. And adding this line about building permit, required, just following the UCC requirements. Moving on, if there's any comments, please stop me. It continues with a few other sections where that occupancy is. It's kind of sprinkled throughout here. And then the one section is, and I'll kind of just talk in a little bit more of a broad term of approach to this zoning update. So there's kind of three main, what I would say, convoluted ways that this code is written that affect people's interpretation, engineers' interpretations, even like zoning professionals' interpretations. I've run this code by a number of colleagues of mine. And what that is essentially the thought of like a secondary street versus a front yard versus there's just ways to write it in zoning code. And it's very, I would say, atypical to have something that establishes specific setbacks, side setbacks. There's a lot of imagery in the code that for certain people it helps, but I would say for majority of people, they have no idea what they're looking at when they look at the code. And I've had multiple people bring in the pictures of where, what and where things are within our code that has caused more confusion than assistance. And I personally don't think that the way that some of the code is written is strong, and there's parts that are inconsistent. And I'll get into some of that. I'll kind of just go with, with the interpretation of setbacks. They tried to in the zoning, from my opinion, they tried to capture everything with this zoning code, which is not possible for any zoning code. So my suggestion is to do a few things. Limit the specifics of certain interpretations of the code for use, and keeping it really to like where setbacks are. There's kind of a convoluted way of writing in some of this code that leaves more up to interpretation for my position than what I think the zoning officer should be interpreting. And that's why I have some suggestion to pull out some uses and things like that. That's kind of why there's a zoning hearing board. If someone had, if you have specific language, you have a zoning hearing board that's meant to, clarify those things. So my suggestion is to eliminate the segment portion of the town code. We have both a definition for front lot, mid lot, rear lot segments, and front, mid, and rear yards. It's very typical in majority of codes around here, they use yards. And so the interpretation of a corner lot is that any front yard would have a front setback that applies to any abutting a street. That's how it's applied now. You just have a secondary setback that allows some projections, I would say, which was just rewritten. I take the secondary street projections and kind of put them into a projection section which I think is how it should be written. So that's kind of the justification for why we're removing parallel frontage lots, why we're adjusting the verbiage to say on a corner lot, the front setback applies to all lot lines abutting a street. That's how it's interpreted now. It's not changing anything, it's just changing the verbiage. And then with multiple lot line streets, this is where basically the entirety of secondary street concept I was able to just put it into a projection. It's the same exact requirements are in the code right now. It's just written in a different way, so it doesn't confuse people, and it leaves the interpretation up to a front setback being a front setback, and allowing those projections in there. If there's comments on what those projections should be, I'm happy to revisit those. I kind of just kept it with consistency to not change what the regulation was, which is change the way the regulation was written. Here we have exceptions to setback requirements. These are projections to setbacks. I think it should just be labeled general projections. I think that's just a little bit more clarification. The way I read this portion of the code is if you have a existing structure, any structure, you could put a bay window or projection. So where that didn't sit well with me was, would we want to allow someone that has a permitted driveway would be 5 feet from the property line or 10 feet in some of these districts? Would we allow them to project 3 feet further for an accessory structure? When I think that the whole purpose of this is to allow these type of features on a home or on a principal structure to say, hey, your building's allowed to be set back at the setback, but these, architectural features and use features for your gutters, bay windows, these things, they can have that projection. So this is just clarifying it to only allow it for principal structures. There's a section of
Which section are you on?
I'm in 1302-170, exceptions to setback requirements.
I wanted to do something before that.
Sure.
The phrase right before that, there is no definition for primary front yard, so it should just be front yard, right?
So,
We just said anything on the street is a front yard.
so yes, you're right. The way that and we can write it that way. The way that the code's written now is that there's a front yard and there's a secondary street setback. Those secondary street setbacks are less than what the front setback is. So if we make the interpretation that everything is a front yard, you would then say.
We just did though.
Correct. So my suggestion would be, and I agree with you that there's no definition of that, is rather than leaving the interpretation of what the principal front of a property is we could add a definition that says that the primary front yard or principal front yard, however we want to write it, would be the where the street's facing or whatever that definition may be. I do think that it is imperative to have some type of specification to what the front is if you're going to allow these projections. If we're going to pull the projections and not, because basically what this allows is if you have let's just say that you're in the RVL district and you have a 35-foot front and you're on a corner lot, this allows you to project to 20 feet, which is what the standard is right now for side setback or things along those lines. So this is just a different way of writing the secondary setbacks by saying rather than having a secondary setback, you have a front yard and then you have the primary front yard, which would be like your corner lot where your door is facing, which is how it's written now. It's actually written very loosely where it says in the definition typically where the front door is, which I don't think is a very strong definition.
Wouldn't it be where your address is?
Well, but
I was gonna say, a lot use the front door, but sometimes that's
I
like
have no
angled.
access on Perrymont.
It couldn't be that because there's properties that are addressed to Grubbs that are on a private street that were never addressed there. So my recommendation is, and I do think that you're correct in that comment, there should be something that establishes what someone's principal, I think principal might be the best way, your principal or your primary front yard, then your secondary front yard. And what that does is it just eliminates the confusion of the secondary street, because that's where people get hung up. I mean, we could just say, no, we want,
a front
a
yard.
front yard is a front yard, and we don't want to have any limit, we want to add more limitations to people who have corner lots and say, no, there is no secondary street, you have to go and get a variance. I mean, that's a very typical how zoning is.
Just does
So,
front yard.
I mean, if that's something that we want to consider, that would make things a lot simpler.
Yeah.
This was my attempt to remove the confusion of secondary side setback, but still keep the same regulations. I wasn't trying to change a lot of the regulations. So, I mean, if we have
I vote for front yard as a front yard.
I'd like to hear everyone's
But
opinion.
anything on the side, you have to get a variance?
You have two side yards. You have two front yards, two side yards
Yeah, correct. Which is,
On a corner lot?
on a corner lot.
which is how it's.
So you actually end up being able to project further.
Well, I don't want to require people to get variance. To me, variances are difficult and cumbersome and confusing for
They
most
shouldn't
people.
have to get variances, but you also should not be able to change all the other houses that face on that secondary street have a front yard. They're not a corner yard. They're required to have that front yard. So
Correct.
you're now changing the dynamic of that entire street.
Yeah, so really, just to make it really simple, I mean, the question here is, if somebody lives on a corner lot, should we have something written into the code that would allow them more usability into the section of their yard that is not in front of their house? Basically, what we would limit is any structure or any building in front of your house. You have your front yard, you have your front door, you have your walkway to where your driveway is, or your front mailbox, whatever it may be, to limit any type of accessory structure there, which is the way it's written now. Do we want to have that limitation continue to what is another front yard? Or do we want to have a section in the code that establishes a primary front and has some allotment for projections into the non-principal front yard, which is the same, I'm just explaining what the concept of secondary street is. It's just putting it into the projection section rather than writing it into every section of every use.
So it makes
District.
everybody else on the secondary street, where that is their front yard, you're not the same. You know what I mean? You're
Right.
allowing, and because you allow a corner lot to have two side yards, you've got more room there to be doing things like accessory buildings and whatever. I mean, I'm a corner lot, and I believe that I should have two front yards. Now, there's a storage shed that's been in the front yard for quite some time, but it's because the code was written with a secondary.
Yeah, and just to let you know, like, what this would do is, if you're on the corner lot and you are in the RVL district and you have a 35-foot front, you would have a 20-foot front on your not in front of your house. So it's on your side that is considered a front yard. And what that would let you do is, you have a house that would be sitting in front of you, and offset a little bit, you could have a shed, or you could have a
Porch.
yeah, or a garage.
Yep.
And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about those structures. This doesn't apply to fences. Fences have a different zoning code. So that's what to consider.
Forgive me, I'm confused because I thought you didn't want that. I thought you wanted everybody on the quote side street to have the same
I do.
frontage.
That's what
I
the
do.
point is.
That's
Okay.
not what the
So
code
you
says
don't want
now.
what he just stated.
That's what the code says now.
Correct.
I don't agree with what the code says now. I believe a front yard is a front yard.
And I can just speak from like my professional experience, like that's how I would interpret it also. That's how I've interpreted it. The way that the code's written, it's not, what this decision would be is, are we gonna limit, like, are we gonna allow more usability for corner lots, or are we not?
Well, I think the corner lots get more usability because they have two side yards rather
Which
than a
is,
rear yard.
they do, that's very true.
So-
They do have side yards, so the allotment is different. Rather than having a 40-foot rear setback, they have two 10-foot side setbacks. That's kind of the difference here.
That's the toss-up. So, and I believe the code was written like this because the prior code dealt with secondary streets as if they weren't even front yards. So this was kind of a step towards front yards on the secondary street. You know what I mean? It was like a one step towards, believe me, I've written 30 codes and they all are a front yard is a front yard. It's just clearer.
Hey, this is Mark.
Hey, good, Mark.
You know, I guess so I have two questions for you. One is, would there be, if the zoning is changed, will there be any enforcement actions done for existing property owners?
They're non-conforming.
There's a lot of nonconformities with the way that the code was adopted in 2023. There's a significant amount of nonconformities in the town, and part of this is trying to alleviate some of those nonconformities to be in compliance.
So then, with that, would it be possible, again, I'll talk to neighbors, people ask me questions about it, to show specific examples of what, you know, again, not necessarily, we can redact it, you know, but what we're actually trying to accomplish from this?
Yeah, I mean, I could, I'm happy to go in my GIS right now to show you an example. I mean, that's not a problem at all.
Okay.
I can picture the issue. I'd never thought about it.
I was worried she wouldn't be able to fit behind me. I was trying to scoot forward, but I don't have much room.
So this is the RM district that we're in. Essentially, right now, the way that the code's written is there's a principal, you're doing a front setback, which would be, yeah, I mean, yours is Perrymont.
My address is Perrymont.
Because I've been to your house, and her door is on the southern side of this property. And even right now, even talking about this right now, like, we're considering which one of these is the principal front setback. So if I go and I measure her property here, roughly speaking, there's a 65-foot front.
Should be 20 on the side.
And 20-ish on the side.
Yeah.
So what that allows, what that secondary street projection that I've written here, 20 feet in the RM district, would establish that Perrymont would be her primary front, because that's where her door's facing, and that's where she's addressed to. That's like, that would be we would write that into the definitions. And then that would permit her to have a 20-foot setback on Lee Street, which is the same as the regulation right now. The regulation right now would allow a 20-foot side setback for the accessory structures. So what that caveat would say is that, you know, she can have that projection. Now, there's a lot of properties like Ann's that whenever you rewrite totally zoning codes, that they become non-compliant.
I
So
think the
that,
front yard is 20 feet for the RM.
off the top of my head, yeah, it's.
Yeah, so I've got 2 front yards, I'm pretty sure.
So it would, and it would basically allow some type of projection into multiple fronts. I do think that, like if you wanted my opinion, I agree with Ann. The reason that I have that section into the code was to establish the existing regulations and have discussion.
So what is the consequence of noncompliance?
Nothing.
Nothing.
It only affects future development.
Right.
Yeah, anything that is currently existing becomes a legal non-conforming structure, and so it's allowed to remain. The only other potential impact is if it's destroyed past a certain point,
Right.
then it would be considered new development.
And there's a caveat in the code for nonconformities that allots for, in particular situations, like increases and expansions of nonconformities. So basically, like, that would, it would limit new construction, and for anybody that has something that's non-conforming, which is a lot of properties now, they would go through the non-conformity expansion process, or they'd have to demolish whatever that structure that is, and then build it to compliance.
And legal nonconformities aren't like a local protection that we provided for in the code. That's a constitutional protection, so that's not something that could change based on policy or who's on council. So that protection is built in permanently, yeah.
Does that answer your question, Mark?
No.
There's no consequence. There's
So,
no consequence to any existing property that would be made non-conforming. The only consequence would be if I decided I wanted to build in what is now a front yard, and these projections that we allow in the current code would allow me to project on the Louise Street side.
right. So I'm not trying to be the devil's advocate, but I will be. So I wish I had a solid example, but 4 of the 8 houses on the block have the porch, or they have the I don't know what they call those really fancy outdoor living areas. And I'm number 5. So I'd like to have mine because my neighbors have them, but now it's a non-conformance, so they get it, but I can't.
Well, yeah, and that's what the variance process would be, is to say like, hey, like you have to provide a justification because they have 2 fronts. And the whole reason that you have fronts against against streets is to limit any potential like safety issue with site triangles and those type of things. But I mean, but you're not wrong. I mean, like, even right now, people come in with the existing regulations and say, I want to build, like, I have a woman who wanted to build on a corner property. She wanted to put like a chicken coop, and even like you have that requirement, like she could meet some of the where the distance is, but she had to project into her like in front of her house. And I was like, we can't allow, like, we don't want to allow any structures in front of homes that could impede anything like that. But her neighbor has more usability behind her house because they only have two sides. So each adjacent property, they would have less, they'd have side setbacks, but they still have a 40-foot rear. Whenever her challenge was that she had 2 front setbacks that were now, one was 35 and one was 20 feet.
So, Mark, looking at the picture that Nat has up, my house is set back double what, from Perrymont, double what the front yard setback might be. So I can still build on what Matt is calling the front of my house and what 911 thinks is the front of the house too, because that's the definition or that's the address they gave me. I could build right to the front setback, which would be the 20 feet.
Yeah, so I look at that picture and I appreciate that, right? So like there's 143,
Yep,
right? So what you're saying is that, I guess that's what I'm looking at, right?
Yep.
So 143 is that close to Paramount. That property owner in Paramount could build towards 143, meaning all the, like you said, the safety, fire, whatever. But this zoning, they wouldn't need a variance to do that?
no,
No, right now they could build up to like what the allotted, let me just have to pull it up because I don't want to reference it wrong. Because we're in the RM district. So right now, that property has a 25-foot front and a 25-foot side. So for principal structures, it doesn't change anything. We're strictly just talking for accessory buildings. So an accessory building right now has to be 40 feet back. So it'd have to be 40 feet. So that's basically where this property was built. And then if we make the regulation, they would have to have 40 feet back before they could have any type of accessory structure. With the projection, it would allow them to have 20 feet opposed to 40 feet. That's what we're talking about.
so she has 2 front yards. Her garage meets the requirement right now for a front yard. The garage is the building behind the house.
Yeah.
And her side yard, I don't think meets the requirements, but she has 2 side yards. The one side yard is 75 feet long. But, so the primary reason why you deal with 2 front yards is so that you have a building line essentially that people are building to on both streets. So you don't allow, my other neighbors up the road on Louise, they should be protected. They've got their front yard requirement. I shouldn't be able to do something more than what they're allowed to do in projections into that area. That's all I'm saying. And if you look at new plats, so this plat was done in the 40s.
Yeah.
If you look at new plats, they do that. The front yards are the builders just do that. The front yards on corner lots are the same as the front yards on the adjoining lots. Just for visual, they do that.
Well, let me add something here. When I've come in, I've reviewed subdivision plans, new ones that have corner lots. I always ask that the recorded plan designate which street is the front. So it becomes recorded and memorialized in the future. So they can't be, so it's defined.
But it's a corner lot, so it has 2 fronts.
But in some cases, my experience has been that you can have 2 fronts, but the one that's not the one in which the house is facing can be half the distance.
And what we're saying is they both need to be the same.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, it's just, this is just people can have different opinions on what is right for this. I mean, there's not a right or a wrong way to consider this. It's just, do we want to allow people to have more freedom to build closer to a side street whenever they're on a corner lot? Or do we want to have them have more of a restricted zoning requirement? And then if there's some type of justification that they can provide through a variance process, that they would be able to provide it, and that would be the interpretation of the zoning hearing board. I mean, that's like the more Euclidean, traditional way of zoning that's been done since the 70s.
1920, New York City.
Yeah. Chicago plan, 1909, I think. Been a while since I've been planning school. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of that's the thought.
So how would you, let me ask you the question. So it's obvious on my parcel because Paramount's a state road and Louise is a town road. So that would be Paramount would be the primary. and Louise would be the secondary. But if you've got a standard subdivision, a new subdivision where you're building 2 town roads, sorry, my daughter, how would you determine what's the secondary road?
So the way that it's written now, and let me find it in the code. Because it's written very, I'll have to find it. I think it's actually in, give me 1 second. Yeah, so this is what's written it's in 1302-160 under corner lots. The front setback applies to the primary street frontage, typically the side with the front door, and the secondary street setback applies to the other street frontage. The reason I dislike that language is it's very interpretive, subjective to my role. And I don't think that I should be the one that's deciding that. I think it should just be established. That's kind of like where, there are interpretations where the zoning officer has to make those calls. I just don't think that, I personally disagree with having any type of language in a code that says typically. That's just not a way that it should be written at all. It should say that it is, if they wanted to do it with the front door, you could say it's the front, where the front door is facing, and where its address, whatever it is, it just needs to be established. And that's kind of why it is a simpler process to say no projections, 2 front yards, there's no confusion. And then leaving it up to, the zoning hearing board to say, is there a justification for someone to have a projection into a side yard? Because the thing is anything that's already existing is existing, it's the way it is. They have it, it's the non-conformity anyway. And so that's the thought. I think that for that one, I'm happy to,
I think we've beaten this.
Yeah, if you were to consider this and have a conversation about it, I know that this is one line of code, but this is the critical, it's very critical to what the entirety of the zoning is, the setbacks. But I don't know if you want to say something, just to move on.
Yep.
To keep going through, so that's kind of, and I touched on a lot of what's through here. So you go to the next section, which is 1302-170. So this is where, some of that for multiple front yards, this is where it justifies some of that. Accessory structures may project 15 feet in the front yard, provided that no portion of the accessory structure is beyond the principal building elevation. So this is the language that would allow what we're talking about, is these type of things.
So I could have an accessory structure in my front yard, in front of my house.
No.
Yeah, not in the front yard.
Not in the principal yeah, so the way you'd have to write it is you establish what the front principal building elevation is, which is what would you say the front of your building, and then you have the front yard. Nothing can be established in the front yard. If you have a secondary street, you could put it onto that. This is just a simplified way of taking out the concept of secondary street and allowing the same type of, this is without changing the actual regulation right now. This is a different way of writing what is written currently. And I'm happy to, if we're going to think about that, and each planning commission member wants to individually provide me comments, I can take that and then address that into the next document that would be presented. So moving on, you can see there's a number of things that are being removed, some of the interpretations. In the districts, so 1302, each district, there's a number of adjustments that I'm recommending. Some of the wording is written, there's a few places in there where they missed minimum, it doesn't say the word minimum. It means minimum, the lot area, there's a lot area that just says 20,000 square feet. Doesn't say if it's maximum, doesn't say if it's minimum. It's supposed to be minimum, but that was something that's missed. There's in the special district, it's technically the special district. That's the way it's written right now. So there's small cleanups throughout here. I have highlighted in each district the impervious cover. I think that my recommendation would be to do a 5 to 10, whether you want to do it is like a percent, there should be some type of percent decrease. And it could be significant from what 80% in a district that's meant to preserve parks, open space is absurd to me. Allowing, I mean, we're talking every commercial district, every single one, even the neighborhood district, is all allows 80% impervious cover. That's a lot of impervious. In our RVL district, we allow 30% impervious. And I worked in a municipality before this that allowed 18%, just for a comparison.
30 on the size of those lots would be a lot.
I mean, if you're talking about 30% of some of these massive, massive lots is a lot. So I'm gonna recommend that in the next, in my next iteration of this, that I'm gonna do and I'll have a justification for how we do it, like percentage or how it is, but doing a impervious cover reduction across the board. I just wanted to, I highlighted that because I wanted to just bring it to everyone's attention, and if anybody had comments, to comment on it now.
Can I ask you guys what you think of? So Matt and I had a conversation before the meeting. We have a use regulation table, a table that says each district and what's permitted. All of this minimum lot sizes and setbacks and everything can be put in one table. So it's not all written out, you can just look in one place. Does that make sense to you guys?
I'm all for simplicity, yes.
Yeah, so basically what we could do then is, rather than having each, like, I mean, you can see how long it is, and this is without the pictures too. So like in the zoning code right now, and I'll just pull it up so that you can see it too.
Oh, it's crazy, I can't figure out what's what.
It's very long. So what, if I wanted to go just clicking into the MU district, I mean, this is how long we're talking for one standard. That's one district. You could simplify this in the same way that we have some of our other uses here, and it would be like this. It would be something that's just in a table that has everything listed. You'd have one table that has it would just be, I would just have to rewrite how I present this, but that's not too big of an issue. It's the same concept.
Saves us 8 pages.
So that's something, I mean, yeah, that's something I can totally redo in the next month and have that done. So just to go through the actual regulations, you can see here that we're removing secondary street setback. There is a requirement for setback from 25% slopes. I don't think that should be within the zoning. That's a silo item that they put in here, and it's already addressed for addressing steep slopes in the, you can't build in steep slopes, so I think it's a redundant regulation. There's the secondary street setback for the accessory structures, removal of of private frontage and some of the parking design requirements. I think that these items should be in the saldo. I mean, a lot of them are already in the saldo, and a difficulty with a lot of these transparencies is the interpretation of the transparency and the actual the realistic portion of some of these transparencies. It's ridiculously expensive and difficult to review. Our engineers have expressed difficulty in reviewing new applications. I think that with some of the form-based removal of items that are in this code, and what my suggestion is going to be is that we remove the code to simplify some of these zoning items that are difficult to review, and then look at the intention of what these regulations were when they were written in 2023, and then applying them to specific locations like Ingomar. I spoke to people that were a part of the zoning rewrite, and when I asked them to explain to me why they adopted some of these reasons, most of it was because they wanted to make Ingomar look like a walkable area. The issue is it doesn't just apply to Ingomar, it applies to a lot of different properties.
They were trying to project into the future that this is what it would look like.
And I think that
and we're not going to tear down Target and
the intent, I think that the intent is, I agree with the intent. I don't agree with the practice.
Yeah.
And so my suggestion is to remove, and then in 2027, have some type of overlay district or some type of design element, like a lot of codes do. A lot of codes that are old codes, when they get rewritten, they rewrite the codes the way that they are, and then they add in a design feature that is applicable, that does not blanketly make it difficult for development or lead people to develop, things in a way that wouldn't be like efficient or wouldn't be like cited to even be matching of what the existing is. I think that the approach was too drastic and steep. Intent, great, but too drastic and steep in function and applicability. So just to continue on.
Where are you?
I'll go to 1302-200 now.
Okay.
Regulations are there. None of the regulations are suggested changing, just changing some of the clarification for how it's written. Right now, it says W/N within for the way that it's written on that 15 feet or 24-foot allotment. The regulations are staying the same, nothing's changing there, it's just how I'm writing it. You can see that the setbacks being adjusted. There is the RL district, same thing, removal of building form.
I had questioned you the other day. No parking structures are permitted in the front yard except driveways. What's a parking structure?
So a parking structure.
Is it gotta be a building?
Parking structure, I would interpret as any type of, basically what this limits is people being able to put parking pads. That is what this.
No parking structures, if you take out the segment, except driveways, no parking structures except driveways, that would imply driveways are a parking structure.
Correct.
Not just a pad.
My definition of what a parking structure would be, and I mean, they even wrote it in the code, is already written, it's not capitalized, so if we want to add a definition for parking structures, we totally can do that for
Well,
clarification.
then we've got an awful lot of these that are non-conforming at the moment.
Right. So the challenge you have is where, and later on in here, you say no parking in the front yard, okay? Well, everybody's driveway goes through their front yard. And yes, they have the ability potentially to park in a garage, but if the cars are not in the garage.
And I disagree with I don't think that zoning should be able to like say that you can't park on your property where there's a driveway. Like, that's not the intent of what this is. The intent is to say that the use of the property for the structures that are being placed and where they're being located, not saying like someone could just, like I've had people come up to me and ask me, am I not allowed to park in my driveway in my front yard?
Right.
And I'm like, no, that's not what this says. This is saying that we don't want to have every single property along every single residential street have an additional impervious that's added that lets you park 3 cars along the street. I mean, that's what the intent of saying that no parking structures are permitted in the front yard. And I think clarification of what a parking structure within the definition.
So you're looking at a driveway, so you don't want to see.
Parking pad, garage, any type of.
So a parking pad also beyond the driveway. So I have a L-shaped driveway. So my garage is here, I have a driveway, and then I have a driveway that goes over to my shed. So are you saying I shouldn't have that driveway that goes over to my shed?
It's driveway. I would say, my interpretation would be that would be a driveway. I mean, the intent would be to, and honestly, like, that would kind of be up to like my interpretation whenever someone comes in for a permit application to say, hey, look, I want to put this parking pad in front of my thing. I can say, no, you're not committed to do that. If someone comes in with a new house and they have an allotment for a driveway, I mean, that driveway is permitted. Like,
What if they just widen their driveway to be,
Yeah.
they're currently single lane, but they want to widen it to 2 lanes?
They could do that right now.
They'd have to deal with impervious.
Stormwater.
But they can't have a non-contiguous pad? Because didn't we just say you can't have pads? So at what point is a pad versus an extension of your driveway?
People parking on the grass in front of their house or on the.
Well, there should be no parking on the grass, that's a
And
given.
that's a property
That's a
maintenance
given.
item, but.
But I'm talking about, I've seen many people, they build a little 10 by 10 foot asphalt pad on their front yard that is just off of their driveway, sometimes not even off of their driveway, it's not contiguous with their driveway, and they park on that. They're on a pad, they're not on the grass, but they're also not on their driveway.
I would consider that like part of a parking structure that would be limited. If they were out, once they're past that front yard setback, that's where it would be permitted. Under how I would interpret that.
Well, most of them are not that. Most of them are right along the street.
Correct, and that's why this is written, to not allow everyone to be able to do that. If that's not something that, that's what, the way it's written right now is it's parking permitted on driveway only.
Okay.
And like the way that I interpreted that is that you only can have a driveway in your front yard. You're not allowed to have a parking pad because this isn't saying that this is not limiting someone's physical ability to get out of their car and park. It's supposed to be limiting where, I don't know if it's how even legally standing that like would be if someone challenged that in court. Like that's something where I mean personally, I could even suggest that we remove the parking requirements in every single district, because I think that it's something that should just be established in a subdivision and land development ordinance of like where you can have structures for parking, and then an accessory structure would be interpreted as any accessory structure, which would be a patio or a parking
Which we have to
pad.
define still, structure, accessory structure, but yeah. Yeah. So I mean, part of the issue is that people do park in the grass right next to the road, or
And
go
that's-
off their driveway.
And that's where like we have to, as town employees in code enforcement, have to approach that from a violation standpoint, to say, hey, you aren't allowed to do this. They continue to operate it, then you go through the violation. So that's where people are parking and how they park and operate on their property is on the maintenance code. And this applicability should just be for the structures of the parking. If there's some codes where they don't
And again, your
address-
definition of structure is what?
We don't have one
There's
yet.
not one within here, and I think that we could add one.
It's not a building, okay?
Okay, well, that's,
But
But you can even-
I've seen definitions that are, some sort of conglomeration of materials that do not constitute a building. So it could be a fence, it could be a wall, it could be a parking place.
I definitely agree that a definition would be helpful, because I do
Yeah.
think
Oh,
that this would be
absolutely.
one of those where it's vague, we have to interpret in the favor
Yeah.
of the property owner, and so
so
I
we'll
think,
get a definition.
yeah, I think a
somehow.
definition would be
And,
good.
and so, and just to like specify like how it's interpreted right now. So for example, in the RVL district, rear lot segments, parking's permitted, including lowercase parking, capital structures. The definition of a structure within the code is any manufactured object such as a building or fence having an ascertainable stationary location on land or in water, whether or not fixed to the land. So like right now, my interpretation would be anybody that's putting a structure that would be used for any type of applicability for parking. So like my interpretation right now in the existing code would be that like, that's how I would have to handle it, is any structure with that definition that applies to a lowercase parking, which makes it really difficult to like really understand what that means.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I feel like parking pad, someone can make an argument a parking pad isn't a structure. I think based off what we have right now. Whereas like a carport is obviously a parking structure, I think I think we can make it clearer, that's all.
And I think a parking structure in the definition would be any type of, I can look and see how other municipalities write it, but, any type of accessibility from like a road, or from a vehicle, driveway, carport, a garage, like all those items. Because the thing is in the other sections of the code, you'll see in the parking requirements existing, there are like garage recessions and like certain like specific requirements that are in there that are like, you can't have your garage has to be behind your house, or certain like elements they tried to implement. But just for the sake of continuing, just to keep going, now I'm still in the RL district. I'm gonna move on to, there's, in the lawn area, I highlighted minimum. It doesn't state whether 20,000 square feet is max, minimum, so the intent is to add minimum, so we're adding that. There's same thing with the parking placements. RM is very similar, same regulations, secondary street setbacks being removed, removing the frontages, removing the projections and putting them into the projection section, removing the parking sections there. Now getting into the commercial districts, this is where there's a couple different adjustments. One is removing a lot of the particular architectural features in the minimums that restrict certain properties. Not, allowing a maximum, not allowing a minimum. Principal ground height, removing requirements for ground floor height, removing upper floor heights. Those are both items that should be included within some type of design overlay in the future. Considering decrease in very large impervious cover, which is 80%, which is astronomically large. and I'm gonna say astronomically again, because this is supposed to be for small shops, cafes, local restaurants, setbacks are small. I understand having impervious cover and allowing people to have space, but like, if we want to be a community that cares about stormwater, we should not allow a ton of seas of pavement. That's what this allows, is a sea of pavement.
I think though that this district covers Perry Highway, right?
Perry Highway,
All right, and Perry Highway has a bunch of small plazas and small, what used to be houses that have been made into businesses. And the parking lot pretty much, by the time you get the house or the building and the parking lot, it's pretty much
That's it.
there. So I believe that might have been put in to not make them non-conforming. There may be a better way to address it, but it was based on the existing.
yeah, I think there's so much nonconformity that, like, for me, looking at future, I don't want a bunch of pavement all over the town. Like, that's kind of why I think that should be decreased. And I think that just from the number of people that have come and talked about stormwater, how much we talk about stormwater with this committee would be a good change. Another issue that we've seen firsthand with this planning commission is the concept of build-to areas. Really difficult going from setbacks to having a minimum and maximum. It makes it really difficult for new development, and I just don't think that I understand the intent, I understand the reason behind it. I don't think in practice that it works. We haven't seen, there's been literally almost no development regarding that applies to any of these front options in any of these districts, because, there's issues with that. Even look at Wright Hyundai's coming in right now, we talked about them tonight. They don't meet the maximum because they were granted a variance. So do we want to have very stringent requirements that just lead to going to the zoning hearing board, or should we just establish what setbacks are and have setbacks that are more traditional? That's the approach that I was taking. And that's what you see here. So there are some regulation changes. I kind of went with the medium. So rather than have a 5 and a 10, you have a 10. You're still permitted to have projections, like for your front stoop. You can still project, things like that. So you can still allow walkability in the front. You just don't have the stringent architectural requirements, and especially for corner lots, like, you're not making it very hard to even develop. You just have an established yard that's very clear for people. That applies to both principal and accessory. You can see what's being removed, private frontages, parking placement. You can see I've removed parking requirements entirely in commercial districts. I think that should be established within the SALDO, and it is established in the SALDO. And keeping buffering requirements in, I don't think it hurts to keep those in, just to make sure that people know that they're there. Even though you could probably argue that we could remove buffering from the zoning and only have it in the SALDO also, because it's in there twice. Same thing with the MC district, removal of architectural features, impervious cover, setbacks, it's the same.
When you look at your overlays, let me just go back, I think that the section of Perry Highway, not up in the flats, but the section of Perry Highway, the lower section probably should be an overlay that.
I think that
deal
what would make sense is to have some type of zoning design committee that would look at each commercial district, rather than not just each separate district and saying hey, we're gonna applicability here, applicability there. And then obviously, this commission would be a part of that. I think that would be great. MU district, similar. This is one thing where I would say that within the next couple of weeks, take a look at what is established, what I put in the front yard requirements. So right now they want MU to be built closer to the street. I don't think in that MU district that it makes sense. Drive up through the Wexford portion of town where the MU is. There's a small section where Fraser Drive is. Look at what the MU is. Look at what's existing there. Look at McKnight Road. look at the recent news with people being along McKnight Road. I mean, do we really want to facilitate having very close structures to McKnight Road that would push people close to high-volume traffic, and also looking at the pre-existing conditions? And I'm not talking like old buildings that are gonna be fixed. There's a significant amount of new buildings that are going to be here for 40 years and that are now non-conforming to the code. So it's just something to consider. That 20-foot is based on like looking at some properties, looking at what my general recommendation would be. But I think that someone could probably present an argument to say 25, 15. I mean, these are numbers that should be considered and could be commented on. And if, if we want to like think about that for a little bit and give me comments prior to, like within the next 2 weeks, so that I have time to like make addresses for a formal ordinance to be posted and presented at the next meeting, that would be great. Just to keep going, the town center district. So this one is the biggest change. So this applies to like 10 properties, and the properties, I fundamentally disagree with how they zoned this district. There was presented images of what conceptually this would look like. It could be. It was high rises along McKnight Road in front of where the shopping center is. It doesn't work. They overlooked
4 stories, not.
They overlooked the actual topography of what we're talking about here. So this is Rave Cinema. So sure, you can make an argument that they could build buildings closer to the street there. And there's
Which street? Leisure or McKnight?
Or Rave is.
Leisure.
Well, either side.
Leisure,
It could be
You
either.
wouldn't do it toward McKnight, there's a creek there.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Correct, which is exactly my point. There's a creek on the other side too, where these images that were included in the zoning ordinance changes for justification that showed high-rises built over an existing stream. It's literally not permitted by the environmental protection, by our code. Our SALO doesn't permit any construction there. So I think that this district was very visionary, and it needed to be corrected. I mean, for example, there was a high-end restaurant that wanted to go in where Dover Salary was, tear down, build a new building, high-end restaurant. They weren't permitted, because if they tore that building down, they'd have to move that structure within 5 to 10 feet of the street. It would be a convoluted, because there's multiple uses on that property, and it would have to be a minimum of 3 stories. In the TC, it's 3 stories. Minimum of 3 stories, with the first being required to be commercial. So my recommendation is to remove the minimum requirement, keep the maximum requirements that are already allotted there, so that whatever is their plan for construction can be built. We can consider if we want to adjust those, and then just adjusting the setbacks in the same way as the MU. So that's why there's that minimum's removed. I think that's a necessity. I think that it limits existing properties, and you'll see that when we continue on here, just moving forward. I'll get into like the uses and how that applies as well. The special district, we're going to change the name, so that's special district, not special district. That was just probably some typo that was left in there. Considering impervious, considering the same regulations for the side setbacks, just removal, and then the architectural features. Moving on to the uses. So this is where I spoke. There's a few use regulation changes that I'm recommending. And most of them are based on use and logic. I think that, personally, I think that some of the decisions that were made were not based on professional practice and based on possibility feelings. So this is just I'm straight up looking at the uses, looking at how they apply in the districts and where they're located, and adjusting them. You can see that I've adjusted some properties to be conditional. The reason that I do that is because these properties, they can be permitted in these districts, but these districts should have more regulation for that type of use. If you want to have a townhouse dwelling in the district, in the MU district, it should be conditionally allowed. It's permitted by right for an apartment building, but you can't allow townhouses. That's not a logical, it doesn't logically make sense. Those are two pretty similar uses. The difference is just density. So my recommendation is to permit the townhomes in the MU, sorry, make sure I'm referencing here. In the MU district, and then in the TC district, removing the ability to by right add an apartment and adding the conditional ability to have those uses there. Whether or not we want to not allow those in the TC, I think that you could make that argument, but I don't think that it makes sense. I mean, there's actively being townhouses built in the MU district that are now not allowed. They're being built currently, so that would have, it's a lesser use to allow it there.
So
And
the
that's why.
assisted living, was that permitted before and now you're?
No, I'm just suggesting that in the special district where there are assisted, like
Yeah.
where there's step, that use would be permitted there conditionally. It's just there already is an assisted living facility located within special districts. There's
Right.
one at Passavant. and
There's
it's-
two.
Yes, and so it's just putting it so that
So
those,
you're saying it was not on the table previously?
if there's, you can see under hotels
Yep.
in the
Yep.
MC district,
You
if
cross
something
out
was
the-
existing, that cross out is, it
Okay.
was permitted, and now I'm suggesting that we change it to conditional.
Okay,
So that's the justification there. Assembly in neighborhoods and corridor districts, just being consistent with what uses are allowed in what districts. There is for retail uses, there is the addition of a shopping center. Now, this is something I brought, not completed, I brought this as the first stab. There's not a use for a shopping center. There's nothing that really states if you have a shopping center. For Duncan Plaza, it's hard to apply any of the regulations that exist to that use. And there needs to be something in the code that says that use exists. But I don't want to just say that it's permitted by right so that a bunch of people can just throw up a bunch of shopping centers, because I do think that that's not what type of development that we want. So my suggestion is to permit it conditionally so that you're bringing into compliance some of these uses that are now non-conforming, and then having a standard that says that shopping centers have to be single use, have to be, whatever this is. I took a very broad definition of what a shopping center is with the intention that I could get comments from the planning commission and then present a solidified definition of what we're looking at there.
Is there a definition of a shopping center?
Existing in the code now, no.
this would be it. This would be the definition.
This is the very, very loose definition that is not the final product.
This one here?
Yes, so what my ask is, and I don't even want to really get into diving into this right now, is if you can just consider this and give me comments on what your comments are, and I can even provide to the commission and to the public like a findings of neighboring municipalities, just do some research. You have a list to say, hey, this is how Hampton does it, this is how Franklin Park does it, this is how XYZ does it. That way we have some idea and we can have an applicable regulation.
I guess the only thing that I comment that, well, there's a couple. One would be our office is considered commercial. I'm not sure what our definition of commercial is. And then perhaps to be consistent with multifamily, to make it 3 or more. You know what I mean? Just to
Yeah.
make that line.
Yes. Yeah, that's something to consider if there's just 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And and a lot of these things are like you need to think about them and then provide like we need to provide some type of comments. So what I'll ask is that you can individually provide me comments. I can address that in a memo that states what our comments were, and then because what the next item that you'll see is an actual ordinance with these edits in it that would be more solidified so that we can discuss that and move on within the process. Let's keep going.
Wait, can we?
Yeah.
Back to the residential one?
Yep, 100%.
For manufactured home community, do we have a definition on manufactured?
Yeah, I think we do.
Yep, I can pull it for you.
Very short. And we can't exclude them.
Can or cannot?
Cannot.
I'm seeing a lot of modular stuff, so I'm curious.
So this is the definition of a manufactured home. Let me get the actual, I think it's in the, You think I'd know this whole thing off the
Yeah,
back of my
it-
hand by now, right?
It could be fabricated or.
Yeah, so I'll just read it. It's a, oh, it made me go back up for some reason. A parcel or continuous parcels of land that has been so designed and improved that it contains 3 or more manufactured home spaces for the placement thereon of manufactured homes. Manufactured homes shall be developed pursuant to Article 1107, which is in our code for manufactured homes. Or manufactured home parks. There's a lot of standards in the building code that establish what that is. So the way that it reads would be 3 on a parcel or multiple parcels in a row.
Of something, what's the factory part, or what?
In accordance with Part 11, which is our subdivision and land development ordinances, that establishes what like a manufactured home is. There's a lot of like, I could dive into it, but there's a lot of dialect in the building code that establishes like what a manufactured home is and establishes like what regulations there are and how we can apply them. So hopefully that answers your question.
I think so.
I mean, theoretically, it could be brought in on a chassis, okay? Or it could be, I don't think manufactured includes fabricated.
Yeah,
outside.
that's different. And this is meant to be like for like a trailer, like a multiple.
Something on a,
like
something on a chassis.
Like an actual use of those. Like if some of these ones.
Because Rachel
built
Carson is
modular,
manufactured off-site.
Yeah, right, that's typically what it is.
Right.
And so,
The
I
chassis
mean, most of the
is the-
builders
There's no
have
chassis.
their framing done off-site anymore. They just bring in the pieces. They don't know how to frame.
And thank you for adding that.
Yeah.
Just to keep chugging along here. I appreciate everybody being out here at 9:21. Thank you. Even you back in the
Next
back.
time
Lori,
you bring
appreciate
pizza.
it. Yeah, next time I might, you know what? I will bring pizza next time.
Question for the next section.
Go ahead. Yeah.
On 1303E, principal use service uses,
Sure. Yeah.
is that something where data centers could be addressed, or does it have to
So-
be separate?
So data centers will be included within this. I was instructed by our town manager and our solicitor that we were gonna do a standalone ordinance. I asked probably a month or two ago if they wanted me to include it in it. They felt that it was significant enough that they wanted to make sure that it was standalone, so that it wasn't like, they wanted to make sure that it was standalone so that we said, hey, we have an ordinance that states for data centers that this is what. So it would be applicable and it would be written into this portion of the code. It would just be written in a separate ordinance that's not included in this code.
But it has to be included here on where it's permitted.
Yes, and in the way that they, like, they're gonna, they're putting that together, and then that would be applied to the zoning in the same way as if in, 2 years from now, we needed to add some other use for some other new thing that comes up. Maybe we'll add some pickleball use or something, who knows what it is. But yeah, that's what it would be. So, you're welcome. So this is just permitting, and this is one question I actually wanted to ask the committee. So we have an application right now for variance approval for, that will be heard at the next meeting for a child daycare located in the MC district. There's already, I think, 2 existing in the MC district, child daycares. This was left out of the MC district. I believe the intention was, and the thought was, the MC district is where industrial uses are permitted. So they didn't allow child uses. So my suggestion was to permit them by right because there are existing ones in there.
The concept was that it would be accessory to an industrial use or whatever, not a standalone. You know what I mean? So if a business wants to go in there and they want to have a daycare center, it would be accessory to their business, not a standalone. That's kind of the conversation I remember.
Interesting, because that's not like written in, like
Yeah.
there's nothing that writes that into.
No, but they could do it as accessory. I mean, you
Well,
can,
it's not permitted in the MC at all.
as an accessory use.
It's not permitted in the MC at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my point, my justification is we permit that use in both the lesser and the greater, talking of like how,
Yeah.
development for commercial. We allow them both, so it just makes sense to have it be permitted in all. Someone could easily make an argument that is against that. My recommendation is to permit it, but if anybody has any comments on that, I'm happy to hear that. Going to adult uses just for occupant, just adjusting the occupancy. Same with accessory uses. in the town code, they have written for PCC, which is the Pennsylvania Construction Code, which is what's adopted by the state government, but the applicability is the UCC. And whenever you go to the PCC in the definition, it says also can be used as the UCC. So no one's ever heard of what the PCC is. No one references the PCC. The UCC is the correct terminology. That's why we're adjusting that. Accessory buildings and structures. I think to Ann's point that what I'm going to probably include in the next definition section would be clarifying the
What's an
definition of what these are.
accessory
It's sprinkled in, but it is kind of left up to interpretation, so I think that it should
We
just
do
be
define
established.
accessory building, we just
Yes,
don't define
by
accessory structure.
So I think accessory structure should also be defined just to be consistent.
Yeah.
And it's referenced multiple times in the code, so that would be I would just have a consistent definition. This is where I'm just reiterating that, prohibited, can't have an accessory structure in the front yard. Opinion, the fire code, it doesn't just apply that, it applies to any building or structure, there needs to be a 3-foot separation, so if somebody wanted to put like a garage and then put a shed, there should still be fire separation between those two items. And that was kind of recommended to me by our fire marshal, so that's why I'm recommending that there's fire separation for every building.
And 3 feet's enough.
That's what the fire code allots, so.
So theoretically, they could build it as one building.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you can build a building. This is just saying that
Have two
if you're gonna have multiple buildings,
Yeah.
because and that's another reason is, and just to justify this, last week I spoke to one of the Peebles firefighters, and he had told me, he works for a different EMS, and he had got called out to a house fire, and there was a house fire, and it started in a shed, and the shed was up against an accessory garage, and the garage caught on fire, the shed caught on fire, the fence caught on fire, and if you had that 3 feet of separation, there could have been more time to allow for services to get there and maybe limit the extent of that fire. So, that's a justification, and I really don't think that that's going to limit anybody for what we're doing in the grand scheme of things.
Hey, if it's a building code, it's there.
It's applicable anyway, it's
Yeah.
just being.
Yeah, you're just stating it,
Yep.
yeah.
Big one right here, fence requirements.
Yeah,
So this has been one of the biggest, people want this to change. They really want it to change. Also, the general standard for a lot of fences that are sold is 4 feet. I think that this is based off of neighboring municipalities. I think that this is an applicable code. It brings the front of town hall into compliance with the fencing requirements. I think that there needs to be more usability. There's no clear site triangle issue if you have 50% opacity and 4 feet. It doesn't limit.
but it should state in the front yard, or the front, there's no front lot segment anymore, so where are we talking?
You're right, and I would change that right now. Yeah, so one thing I do need to double check whenever I go through and put this into ordinance form is, are there any front lot segments that I missed? So I looked this.
You can do a search for that.
So yeah, well, I can do a search for that, so thank you for pointing that out. But yeah, that would just be to front yard, which is already defined in the code.
Yeah.
So, thank you. Make that yellow, so I miss it. And then also just stating this, that it doesn't apply to retaining walls, because how would a retaining wall have any opacity? Continue.
So the next one, no parking is permitted on any lot other than in parking areas. Do we define parking areas?
So that's where I think you could say, that's what we're talking about with this parking structure, parking area item. I don't think that necessarily this needs to be defined. You could be my interpretation. I think it's very easy to add two definitions that state parking area and parking structure. I think it's really easy and clarifies everything. And I will make a note to do that.
And then when you use them, typically when they're defined, and then when you use them in the text, they're capitalized. I don't know if you do that consistently.
No, it will be, because you can even see in the existing text that there's sections that say capitalized structures, and the lowercase is parking. So it's just that they left it very much up to my interpretation. I'd like to simplify that. And then, just adding an ADA requirements, just to have that within the code. I think that all parking should have some level of ADA accessibility. And then also, so it's funny, I had this section here crossed out today, and I didn't go through and edit it because today was the first day that this has ever applied to the code. There's a property that was rezoned from an R2 district to an RVL district, and my concern was that there's existing patios that were permitted to be up to the property line in the past because they weren't regulated. And the way I read this, when it says rear patio, I don't know if it explicitly states, I think that rather than removing this, because there was a woman who had an existing deck on her rear property that projected into a setback because the entirety of her whole property doesn't meet, the whole zoning district was changed, so her rear setback doesn't meet what was already permitted. So she should be able to have that addition there. She already has an existing deck, it's just not covered. So this is what allows that. So my concern, and the reason I had removed it, was to say if someone has a patio that's off their property, detached. So I think that this just needs to be clarified to add for attached to principal structures, and that would fix what it is. And I'm very happy that came in today because my brain was we shouldn't allow this at all, but there are applicability with the way that the code's written, and without rezoning the entire property again and redoing everything, this has to have some applicability. So that's going to be my suggestion for 1304-200 is to keep A in, but add a caveat that only permits it for attached to principal structures. And I think that's what the intent of the code was written for. Removal of the design features for porches. This is where the projection, so this is stated in every single, this is stated, I also have this in, this could probably be added in, rather than being here, for porches and stoops. We could put it back into, because what I didn't want to do was have this regulation in every district. I mean, we wrote porches and stoops 7 times. I was like, well, how do we write it once? I think I think it's way more palatable in a table. So I think I might just suggest to put that into the table, unless people think that it should be listed where there is a accessory structure section. It is a little bit difficult, I will just say, with a lot of what I was constrained to do with this from town council and from our town manager was to, we don't want to rewrite what the code is. We just want to fix what we feel like are deficiencies. And one deficiency in this code, it's not a deficiency, it's how they applied it, was that there's a section for accessory structures. A lot of times everything is listed in one section, it's all in one place. They just have additional criteria in a separate section, so that's kind of why I have it there, and that's what that justification is for. Swimming pools, this would, the building code permits a certain cover as a barrier requirement. So our code requirements are stricter than what the building code permits. So we require that you have to have a additional fence, even if you have the 20,000 or 10, 15,000, however much it is, it's really expensive, cover that's automated. You can access it from your phone. It has a detection system. It's a very, very safe building code approved mechanism, and basically just allowing people to build it in accordance with the building code rather than having an additional requirement. And just for reference, the zoning hearing board has approved 2 of these cases already based on configuration of lot and things like that. But I do think that this is something that we need to address. A lot of people are really upset when I tell them that they have to have a fence, even though they show me their app. They say, this is what the app does, and it's way safer than a fence. Someone can climb over a fence, someone can open a lock on a fence, but they can't unlock my pool cover because I have access to it and I'm the owner. So I do think that there's a safety argument that I understand someone could make an argument and say, no, if you have a fence, if you have a pool cover, if someone doesn't open the pool cover, then there's no barrier. I think it's the same with the fence. If you have a fence and you open the door, it's the same concept, you can walk into it. So that's why the recommendation is to pull that off. I also think that, just from discussing with the zoning hearing board, I think that if they see a lot of these items come in, they would be more inclined to approve it because the building code establishes safety standards, and I don't think that our zoning code should establish an additional safety standard whenever the building code has that recommendation. Just to continue, just to wrap up, so these are, I added some of the definitions that are applied to what I have in the front. One being accessory buildable areas, principal buildable areas, that just establishes that height requirement. It didn't really have it in there, it was kind of up to interpretation, so this just solidifies that. This is something that would, this is kind of where I need some guidance from everyone. I mean, depending on how we want to consider this front yard, side yard business or secondary street, this is how, if you had multiple front lot lines, you could leave it up to zoning officer determination to say, this is your front, this is your side. Or we can write it to establish in a front yard, a front elevation, or a front yada, 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 being whatever that regulation would be. So that's kind of something for us to like maybe think about and discuss. I think that after this conversation, I'm probably going to remove this out of there. I think that and I'm curious to see what everyone will say. I do think that it gets convoluted trying to add all these things in and apply everything, where if you just have these are your front yards, this is what your front is, it's way simpler and way more intuitive for people, and not frustrating. I don't have to explain to a gentleman for, I mean, like, to be honest with you, I talk about the secondary setback probably two or three times a week to people that come in for just normal permits. I mean, there's that many people that are getting permits and have questions, or they're looking to buy a corner lot, so that's why we need to address it. Removal of the segments, as I said, removal of the PCC, removal of secondary streets, removal of design elements, in addition of the UCC definition, just to state what the UCC stands for. Those are my comments. I'm happy to hear anybody that wants to discuss anything. I do think that, and what my ask is for the planning commission, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of homework. I apologize for giving you homework. It doesn't need to, I don't need everyone to go through and give every single comment for everything. If you could just read through, even if it's a sentence or two, giving me your thoughts, highlighting things that you think I should consider. If you want to call me and discuss them, and I am allowed to individually speak with each planning commission member about these items.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we just can't have a quorum of members on a chain.
So I will have availability in my schedule to meet over these items, to answer questions. I think that's another big thing, answering questions. If there's any questions to why I put something in here, why certain regulations a certain way, how other people do that, I'm happy to do that backing research. I would like to have a little bit of a individual with me and each member communication through the next month, because these are big decisions, and we aren't the only people that are deciding these, but we are the people that are going to do the legwork, put it in here, and then I have to take what we decide to town council and give them a justification for us as a whole. And no one person, zoning officer or not, is making these decisions. So I appreciate everyone's time. I'm happy to answer any questions if they have any right now. I've probably talked you out, I think. It's late. And if you guys, if we want pizza next month, I will gladly buy pizza. So you guys, if we get a quorum of pizza, I will.
We have one item on the agenda next month, so.
For me.
We have one item, but I think with a little bit of homework, I'm happy that I will get pizza for us next month.
If you want to as well, just to help with like duplicating, like you not having to answer the same question maybe like 5 or 6 times, you could have people send you questions individually, and you could respond to the group and then just say no responses to this email. So like if everyone agreed to not respond to Matt as a group, then Matt could respond to you individually.
I also could CC everybody too, and that way everyone
Okay,
can.
that works
no one
too.
can- Yeah, that's definitely.
So that way you can see all of the answers, because you might see a question, but like, that's a great question, I actually have a follow-up question to that question, just to save you from answering the same thing.
Yeah, 100%.
8 times
And I
separately.
think at the end of that, I will have some type of document for us that says what we did. Like, I don't want anyone that would come in the future that's looking, I mean, we don't have nobody in the public tonight. There could be some people listening to us right now, but I wouldn't want anyone to to think that like we're just making decisions without like consideration. So I plan to document all that and provide time for all of you to make sure that this is done the right way. I want to make sure that we're not overlooking something. I want to make sure that we clean this code so that it's usable, and it is a living document. I mean, in 2 years from now, we could make changes. I mean, that's totally something that's acceptable, and I appreciate everybody's consideration and time.
Okay. Sorry, Matt, this is Mark. Just one with, saw the email you sent out late tonight. So we're making our comments. From my perspective, I'm still remote here, but I'm making the comment on the correct document. So is there a way to clarify, this is the one you'd like to get the comments?
What I'll do is, so this document is a draft document that was meant for tonight for me to go through.
Yeah.
The way I'm most likely going to write this, and I'm going to talk to our solicitors to make sure that I do it the right way, is my guess would be to have something more solidified, and it's like a completed excerpt that shows all the changes. So I'll send you this, I'll send everyone here an email with this document so you don't have to go into OneDrive and find it. That way we know exactly what document we're reviewing, and then I will have an ordinance that essentially labels that as like Exhibit A. And then, because there's so many changes, it would be,
Right.
These are a list of changes as shown in Exhibit A, and then whatever document that we come together, there will be a more formal document that would be voted on in the future. Like an ordinance, next month, I'll take comments, and your comments could be email, you can call me, you can come in and meet me, we can do a Teams meeting if you need to, whatever it may be, we'll have some type of comment system. I will document what those comments are. I will make the adjustments to this document, and I'll put it into a formal, approvable, reviewable document for planning commission that could make a recommendation to council.
Just no comments in the shared document. So like, for instance, like I saw you highlight the one word that you want to go back and change because like it's active. Don't comment in that document, because if you guys are all commenting in there, then we start to push
Yeah, if you
deliberations.
want to save a copy and make comments and put and use Word, make comments and send it back to me, you can do that. You can send me an email. We can talk it, whatever you want to do. This is just so you all know, I think this is the biggest portion of what my role is with the town, is to make sure that this is done correctly. So I want to make sure that I dedicate as much possible time before we get this in front of public and council for final decision. And that's
Well,
really.
you put it in the planning commission portal, whatever, as a PDF, not as a Word document.
I have it as a Word, but I will pull that out. I will put a PDF in there, and I will send you all the Word document. that
Oh,
I need
okay,
to-
because I mean, we can comment on PDFs, you can make a comment, you just can't change it.
Yeah, I just don't want anyone commenting in the like live shared ones. Like for instance, it's like a word, shared word.
You can go in comments right now,
Yeah.
and I could add a comment that says.
And I could see it all right now on my
Well,
computer.
she can see that I'm doing that. I can see right now.
And I wouldn't want you all to be able to see each other's comments.
Okay.
I can see
In a
that-
private doc, because then it
So-
would be that like deliberating, you guys talking
Okay.
about, oh, let's make this
Okay.
change.
And that's just more like, in that,
It's a
obviously that's like-
technicality.
Yeah, it's a technicality.
Sorry, yeah.
You don't want to ever violate the Sunshine Act, so that's why I'm not.
It's just for optics, you know? We can fix it on the back end, but just the goal of transparency, obviously, I know is everyone's
No,
priority.
that's fine, thank you.
All right, so I guess we,
Okay, next item on the agenda is general public comment. Do we have any general public comment?
Oh, come on.
nothing?
Yeah, you're public. All right, then, given that we have none, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved, a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Bye.
Opposed?
Thank you, Mark. Have a good night.
Thanks, everybody.
To see me. I would love to be done.